Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, your trusted partner in Minnesota's burgeoning legal cannabis industry. Whether you're just starting out or looking to expand, attorney Jen Riza and her team will help you understand the latest developments, scope out risks, and find a compliant path forward in this rapidly changing field. Visit northstarlaw.com and let North Star Law Group guide you through the legal landscape with confidence. Welcome. Hello, everyone, to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by
Marcus Arcus.
Shana Payton, what's up?
And joined by a new host today, our friend, our buddy with Clean Green Media,
Steven Eigenman. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for being here. And there's probably some people that are really confused right now because they're going, oh my gosh, I'm hearing voices, but also I'm seeing people. I'm seeing faces. I'm seeing cool Minnesota Cannabis College t-shirts. I'm seeing this studio. Where are we right now? Well, guys, welcome to the video edition of Northern Lights. We're super happy to have you all here. If you're listening right now, no worries. You can hop on YouTube. You can actually continue at this same point. Check out the whole rest of the episode, but in video format. If you're not able to catch it right now, you're in your car, you're out fishing. Probably not this time of year, but maybe. Definitely check us out for the next episode. You can go to our YouTube page, but we're here at the incredible, the amazing Dabbler Depot studio out of Dabbler Depot in St. Paul.
Yeah, I mean, this is a magical place.
Yeah. So this is what we look like for those of you who have heard our faces before but not seen us. Maybe we weren't able to make one of our events. Well, welcome. We've got a really exciting podcast today. Not only because we're in video format, which is, of course, very exciting, but because we've got a ton of news. Like, we were sort of getting ready for this episode about a week ago, thinking about what are some of the things that we want to talk about. And there were a couple of things starting to bubble up. Hey, maybe we could mention this. Maybe we could talk about this. Well, we've made a lot of changes to these notes in the last 48 hours because there's been some pretty big news. But that's not all we're going to be talking about today. We've got some roadside testing that's beginning here in Minnesota. We've got some new methods of consuming medical cannabis that are allowed part of next year. We've got some new counties to perhaps add to our shame list.
Right.
But that's not all. We'll be coming back with an interview with Will and Cayle from Dabbler Depot, hearing a little bit more about the place that we're at right now and what brought them to become the legacy-winning cannabis place that you can go and buy so many different types of products, from beverages to edibles to seeds and so much in between. So we'll be coming back with that. And then at the end, we've got some cool events that we'll be previewing and also recapping. So definitely stay way to the end to be able to listen through to that. But first off, I mean, no one's going to be surprised about the first story that we're talking about.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. So
More drama.
Monday, there was some pretty big news. Right around 2 p.m., I got a notification on my phone that said we had a resignation of a cannabis director. And my first thought is, wow, this notification came a few months late. I thought that already happened. But no, there's another one. We do have another cannabis director this side on that medical side. And Chris Tolkes, the medical director for the past about 5 years here in Minnesota, has tendered her resignation effective this Friday. So by the time you're listening to this episode, we're going to have a brand new person in charge of our medical industry and still no one formally in charge of our adult use industry. So definitely an exciting time. Some people might already know this news. We did have an emergency podcast. Marcus, you and I spoke with John late last night, detailing some of the things that we already know, but there's still a lot of questions that we have. I mean, now that you've had some time to process this, what are your thoughts? We've got some big changes of the people that run our industry. What are some of the things you're looking forward to?
Well, I think that it's a beautiful thing that most Minnesota cannabis consumers will not be restricted from only purchasing from the medical market. This is a big deal because with the medical cannabis program, the vast majority of cannabis consumers were denied access to it.
Yeah.
So it was legal-ish, you know? So I think we all know that once adult use cannabis is green light, once it's happening, a lot of that medical market is going to dry up. It happens in every state.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is the way it goes. So I think I'm excited that people are going to have more options when you only have two companies, I mean, that duopoly sets the consumers up for failure. That's why we had overpriced products all these years.
Yeah.
So I think the Chris Stokes was like, yeah, this is the end of the Office of Medical Cannabis as we know it. I mean, that's what the law is requiring.
Yeah.
It's going to be absorbed into the Office of Cannabis Management. So I think this is a great time for her to resign if she's not going to cross over into the adult use market. And like she said, it's an intense job with extreme scrutiny. Mm-hmm. Like that's a hard job. Mm-hmm. Like it's amazing that she withstood that, you know, for 5 years that she was in there.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think the future is bright for Minnesota. I know Minnesota cannabis is bright. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, the times are changing. So Office of Medical Cannabis, the role is going to remain necessary, especially for youth to have access or people. But the problem is, if insurance doesn't cover it, it doesn't even make sense to go to the medical market.
Yeah, still so many
You're
problems.
going to get cheaper products. You're going to get more variety. You're going to get better products because there's more competition.
Yeah.
I think
this is great for cannabis consumers.
Yeah.
So long. Yeah. So long to the bad ways.
Steve, you've talked to so many cannabis brands over your time running Canna Connect, your time just in the hemp industry generally.
Right.
What sort of has been some of the things you've been hearing from people that are business owners? Because the medical office has been sort of regulating this low potency industry for a couple months now. What sort of have been the vibes that you've been getting from business owners? And then also, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think to speak, openly, I think there were some cannabis brands that feared Chris Tolkez becoming the OCM based on their dealings with the OMC over the last 2 years. So, the medical side of this industry does not get much attention because of how constrictive it is. That's not her fault. That's how the state set up the program. She's done her best to operate the office and run the office, direct it. Now I think brands are not so much concerned. What brands are really moving flower right now? And Chris had some comments on flower recently, which I thought were interesting that I want to dig into over time. No one's overseeing raw flower from a output standpoint. Yeah. So the Minnesota market is so produced with beverages and gummies. It's like we sort of forget where the flower is coming from.
Right.
And I hope that we can have more providers of medical cannabis flower as the rules change, because it shouldn't just be a duopoly. And Marcus knows the laws better than I do, but we need more options from a medical cannabis side. And Chris saw how feisty our hemp growers are. Yeah. So she doesn't want that smoke. There's better paths for her.
Right. There will be smoke. Like, whoever leads the OCM should be prepared for a very engaged industry.
They should have worked as a firefighter in the past.
But, if the director is on the side of the industry, then they're going to be well received. I mean, all the good actors want a good director. We want a good regulatory system. I mean, we've seen in the earlier states what happens when you got a regulatory system that is antagonistic to the industry, that only sets it up for the big businesses, So that's why it's imperative for us to be very engaged,
Yeah.
We wouldn't have gotten as good of a law as we had if we didn't go influence these legislators. There's so many bad ideas that are thrown on the table by people who have no knowledge of cannabis, no understanding of the market. So the people who are the real stakeholders, we're the ones who inform the regulators of how to do this the right way. Yeah. The real stakeholders are the entrepreneurs and the consumers.
Mm-hmm. Right. Your influence does not go unnoticed when it came to the Aaron Dupree episodes that had to come out. You guys made a difference. It was the cannabis
community that caused her to resign in 26 hours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, held the governor accountable with the quickness.
Yeah.
They were shamed.
Shana, I've listened to a lot of episodes that you've recorded with Jen, that you recorded with Philip. I mean, really talking through that business side of things, knowing the importance of having regulators in place. Right. What are some of your thoughts that we now not only have the Office of Cannabis Management without a formal director, but we now have 2 interim directors overseeing cannabis.
Yeah, I think for me, speaking from a consumer side, I think it's very important to understand transparency is key. There's a lot of chatter, me being on social media, that people still have concerns. Is this going to happen when it comes to licensing, and really being educated by it? So I always encourage them to pay attention and read, follow us, stay up to date, you know, talk to those officials in your neighborhood. There's a lot of local things, challenges that's happening.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for them to be transparent, especially for the governor. I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, had questions. How did this happen? Was it nepotism? You know, what kind of, you know, influenced that? So I think it's very important to stay educated and hold them accountable. And Marcus and I, the way we met was through social equity. So, you know, with Nakima and all these grassroots people. And so people from Minnesota, they were really like holding the governor accountable. So for me, from that perspective, it was just great to see that across all races and just demographics, everyone was interested in knowing what's going on and holding the governor accountable. So for the following year, I would hope that I know it'll be slow, but just changes to come. So just stay involved.
I got to call out the governor, you know, because during the legislative session, when the people who were up in the Capitol, you know, we were negotiating for the governor to be required to consult with the cannabis stakeholders. That's something they removed from that bill in the last minute, you know, during the conference committee process. So the governor made a decision to not consult with stakeholders. That was a decision. That wasn't an accident. Because they all were being, like, we should put this into the law, that it's required.
Yeah.
But they removed that. The governor chose to not consult with the stakeholders and demonstrated extreme incompetence with this appointment process.
Yeah.
Like, the reality is there was a lot of bias and discrimination involved with that decision. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we all know people that are generally well connected in local government that I think sort of had an idea on what that director place was going to go. And then Aaron got appointed and we were all like, oh, I guess maybe the tea leaves aren't as accurate as we thought. And then I think we had sort of just gotten to the point again where it's like, well, maybe we sort of do have an idea on the inside. And I think Chris taking this job just proves yet again that, you know, we're never really sure what's going to happen here in the cannabis industry in Minnesota. We might set up what we want to have happen, and we're going to still find those stumbling blocks along the way.
Yeah, Marcus,
I mean, you got to
right.
attack. You got to, if you're a legislator, if you're a lawmaker, if you're a regulator, I mean, you got to tap in with the community. Like, it can't be, you have to, if you don't understand the plant or the market, then you got to learn from the people who do. You got to always involve the people who are affected by anything in the decision-making process when it comes to public policy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, do you like to make mistakes? Do you like to lose on purpose?
Yeah.
Well, but they really don't care. It's mostly political points. They pass the legislation and then usually don't even pay attention to what the implementation process or what the enforcement was like, what the outcomes. They don't care. It's election year.
Well, so this is one of those stories we're going to have to, continue to watch. Like,
Stay tuned.
I've got a lot of thoughts on it. I've got a lot of thoughts on who the new person is. If you want to hear more about that, go back and listen to that emergency episode. We really sort of dig into who's going to be running the ship, at least for the next couple of weeks, until they figure out who else is going to be on there. What we have heard from the governor is that they are going to be posting that job position soon. So if you're interested in being the director of the medical cannabis program for like a couple of months until it gets absorbed into the Office of Medical Cannabis, give it an application, you know?
I mean, it's important, the leadership that we have in there, even if you only get a short window of opportunity to influence the rulemaking process, you know, we need the right people that are involved, that are leading that from the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Steve, I heard you're going to be applying. No.
Just for the regular one, not the medical.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
He's going to be coming in and writing tickets.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of tickets, that's actually a perfect transition because, guys, we had sort of some weird news around medical cannabis. Well, we also have some really interesting news around adult use cannabis here in Minnesota. Something that if you followed that bill process as it was getting drafted, likely isn't a huge surprise to you, but it is some news that has now started rolling out here in Minnesota. We all love getting pulled over by the police. And we all love when police officers ask us, hey, have you been consuming cannabis today? And we all love that now in Minnesota, there's going to be an additional step. It is optional, and we'll talk a bit about that in a second. But we now have roadside tests, testing saliva, looking for THC, along with other drugs, in people when they're pulled over and police officers believe them to be impaired. So a brand new panel of tests people get to go through if police officers suspect them of driving under the influence of a wide variety of subjects. Now, I'll sort of talk through some of the things that we know about it, and then we'll share our thoughts on it, because I'm sure we all have opinions on this. So we're going to be using two different instruments to detect this drugs in people's saliva. One is one that's pretty well known. It's called the Sotoxa Mobile. You might say, well, I've never heard of that before. And that's because you probably aren't in the Canadian government, because that's a device that's approved in Canada to be able to test for that roadside assistance. There's also another one, the Drager Drug Test 5000. Sounds like something out of Harry Potter.
Oh, they upgraded it.
I know. It's a
the
5000. It's the 4000 version sucked, but this is brand new. No, and
it makes me think that this masturbation tool I seen on the internet called the Gawker 3000.
Well, there we go. That's what you can think of. That's what you can think of every time the police pull you over and say, hey, have you been consuming cannabis? And I would like to screen you for an additional test. So who will be doing this? Yeah.
What do you know about the smell? We talked about
Yeah.
All right.
What if they smell it on me?
Such a great question.
Come around that.
Yeah, so the Minnesota Supreme Court looked at this. We actually had Jenna on a couple of weeks ago to sort of talk a bit about it, so I encourage people to go back to listen to that. But in essence, police can no longer search your vehicle just based upon the smell of cannabis. Let's say you pulled you over, you had an out tail light or whatever, and maybe it smells slightly aromatic of cannabis.
Ooh, smell that
No
Zaza.
longer can that be a reason for them to search your vehicle. Instead, they have to rely on something else, like, it smelled sort of like weed, and they had bloodshot eyes. And they were, they smelled sort of like weed, and they were driving sort of sporadically. Yeah. Or, all of these additional components. So smell, they can't do the testing just for that. But if they pull you over, maybe you got glassy eyes, maybe you're driving a little bit on the slower side, maybe fish music is just screaming out of your speakers. Well, they can decide to say, hey, we'd love for you to take this test. Now, they can say, we'd love for you to. It is optional. Any Minnesotan can say, no, thank you. We have a constitutional right to privacy. Random tests on the side of the road are not allowed. Even this is not allowed unless it's an optional thing. So this is something that can be happening. What we want to stress early on, and then I want you all to share your thoughts, is that if you are someone listening to this podcast right now, hopefully the audio version, and you're driving in your car, and maybe it smells a bit like cannabis in there, maybe, and a police officer pulls you over and says, hey, I would like to try this test, know that you can say no. I think it's really important we stress that here. Yeah, this is an optional thing, and any consumer is just sort of setting themselves up for potential problems, so we really do encourage people to just say no, if you will. But Marcus, what are your thoughts on this roadside testing that we've got rolling out around Minnesota?
I mean, this is prohibition light. This is more drug war nonsense. Yeah. This was like a last-ditch desperation grasping for straws of law enforcement releasing the clutches of prohibition. They want to keep some ways to criminalize you because there's money that follows every arrest, every ticket, every court procedure. Like, that's the number one reason why law enforcement was against legalization, because there's a lot of money that comes with it. It's like a jobs program, civil asset forfeiture. It can steal your stuff before you're even convicted. Yeah. So, like, this is some nonsense. This is some of the stuff that the prohibitionists were lobbying for. They're like, we're not going to be able to stop legalization, but we got to get our way wherever we can. And so this was one of the main ways they could get some funding. I was literally in this committee hearing, and I said something that offended this legislator who was a lawmaker, and he said, that's not true. And then like 90 seconds later, it's like, we want this money for these roadside testing. I'm like, dude, you just proved my whole point on camera. Yeah. No shame. Yeah. But it's bullshit, because we already know it's a false equivalency to say that you could test somebody for impairment because they have cannabis in their system. This is pseudoscience, but this is like what the legislators compromise with and agree to and divert some funding to as a way to like appease law enforcement. Like, yeah, you're losing, but not completely. Yeah. Here, give a dog a bone. You know, but it's bullshit. And I think that we need to collaborate with like American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, Minnesota. Like, let's produce some education materials to teach people of how to engage with the lawmaker. I mean, the law enforcement if they get pulled over. Like, know how to defend your rights.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just say, look, I'm tired as hell and I'm constipated. That's why I'm looking like this and driving like this. All right. I got to tell a bad joke.
Got there. No, I was like, that's incredible. So Shana, what are your thoughts on this? I know social equity is a big sort of emphasis of yours when you look at adult use cannabis, and we've seen in the arrest rates, but also in just like the stops and searches of vehicles, it is really inequitable in the people that are actually getting stopped, but even more inequitable in people that are getting pulled out of their vehicles and tested. What are your thoughts that we now have even more testing that we can put people through?
I think people should still just follow the same rules. I mean, it still applies with profiling and things like that. Just be responsible and stay wise to that. I think that, as Marcus says, it's like a witch hunt. You see all these studies coming out about all of a sudden cannabis has all these adverse side effects and things like that, which is antiquated information. So I think it's very important for people to just be responsible when they're driving, still apply the same rules, and just stay educated on, you know, what the changes are. And like you said, know your rights.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a great point. Steve, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? When you look at sort of that upcoming testing, it officially can roll out as of December. So there could be people in Minnesota, I mean, being tested right now on this equipment. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of struggle with it a little bit. Like, as somebody who appreciates innovation and technology, like, oh, okay, you know, maybe we should use this. But on the other hand, does it even work? And more importantly, I noticed a lot of the legislature treated cannabis the same as alcohol, and said, oh, cannabis, you shouldn't be driving on cannabis. And you look into this more, and it says more about how recent they smoked than how high they are, or that they weren't performing properly in cold weather. You know, Minnesota, you're going to be taking a drug test outside. Does this thing even work? You know, it says they found that there was a retention period for an hour and a half, or maybe just a half hour, but it was even pulling on CBD. So if I take a legal cannabinoid product before I go to work for anxiety and I get pulled over for some reason, you're penalizing the wrong people, and it really just can't be compared to the same way that alcohol is.
Absolutely. And I think that point is so spot on. I think about someone who, you know, maybe they have anxiety and they choose to use CBD to maybe help them with that. They're a little bit nervous. It's going to be a snowy drive at night, so they take a little CBD before they get in the car. They're on the road and suddenly they see some lights behind them. They didn't know they were speeding, but either way they get pulled over. They're pretty nervous. The officer looks in, says, you know, why are you so nervous? You know, I really feel like I'd love to run this test on you. You're just trying to be a compliant person. You're saying, sure, like whatever, which we encourage people not to, but you're saying, hey, it's a snowy night. I just want to get through this. Sure. They test you and suddenly you test positive. And you're saying, I've never consumed a intoxicating cannabinoid. And the police officer says, well, my device says differently and you are now under arrest and please get in the back of my vehicle. Right. And thinking about that, like actual reality that could come about in Minnesota is a little bit terrifying. And
here's maybe the direct comparison is like when you get pulled over for driving drunk, they don't know if you were drinking vodka or whiskey. It looks like the Draeger 5000 just tests for cannabinoids, you know, and I mean, obviously I'm sure they would say maybe they do a little bit more than that, but the difference between a CBD tincture and a THC tincture, I mean, they're nearly the exact same for just a little bit of difference. So again, I just think cannabis is a natural occurring plant. Like, how are these drug tests really going to work?
Yeah.
They're not going to work, except it's going to give the law enforcement some money, some revenue. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. The bottom line is the bottom line in every segment of every sector, especially government.
Absolutely. We've spent many of hours combing through that bill. We definitely saw this provision, and it's sort of like, well, cops are going to cop.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is politics is the art of compromise. So it's like you're not going to get everything you want, and you have to accept that. Yeah. I mean, we could do it begrudgingly. I mean, I resent all the bullshit, you know, but it's like we got much more freedom, much more opportunity. We're going to have much safer products, you know. So they're not going to completely legalize it. It's legal-ish. And that's progress.
Well, and we're so
we
used
celebrate
in the
that.
industry as a step forward and then a half step back. A step forward and a half step back. And I don't necessarily think that this is like a half step back, but it is a really regressive mindset, something that I really think doesn't belong in a state with adult use. And should we figure out how to safely figure out if people are on the road? Yes. I mean, I think that's something that we can all agree on. Is this a method to do that? I mean, I think the evidence would say no, but we've already dedicated millions of dollars to say maybe.
You know, there's a lot of harm that comes with impaired driving. There's a lot of traffic fatalities that are caused by people who are drunk driving. So it's understandable. There's people that actually believe this shit, and they mean very well.
Absolutely.
But they're also prone to being miseducated. Like we saw in many committee hearings, they will bring these people whose children were killed by a drunk driving or like some variety pack of drugs. You know what I mean? And they come in there blaming cannabis because they want to, like act out on their trauma, you know, and it makes them feel like they're doing a good thing. But they're just being dishonest, you know, and most of those people are being played by the law enforcement lobbyists or other prohibitionist interests, usually like the treatment industry and law enforcement, because they profit from people being criminalized. You think the treatment industry wanted this shit legalized? No, because there's way more people smoking cannabis than doing meth, crack, all that stuff combined. Because most people know this is good for their life.
For folks that paid attention to the committee hearings, this enforcement that we're talking about is really the other side of the table getting part of what they wanted. The reason they showed up to nearly
it's a
every
game.
It's a shared game.
The whole society is a political economy, and that's a game.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about some moratorium in just a minute here, and that's
literally
some
bullshit too.
It is a bullshit.
The
Absolutely.
licenses ain't even going to come out until after that.
I know, but it comes back to that same idea of we have a state now where cities can't say no to cannabis.
They were so mad.
But they can just for a short period of time. So if that's the compromise we make, they get the moratorium, and then after January 1st of 2025, they got to accept the business.
Them. You're going to do a moratorium before the licenses even come out? That's versus signaling in the worst way. Most hypocritical shit.
I know. All right, let's jump ahead to this news. We're going to talk about this. So we've talked on this show about a few counties, municipalities.
The shit list.
Yeah, our shit list.
That one needs a long, wet fart sound in the back.
These are the people that are passing these measures at this point that really are not based in science, not based in Yeah, it's based in, hey, I'm afraid of cannabis still, and I want it out of my city even though it's already here. And so we've talked about cities like Duluth, cities like St. Paul that have sort of looked at how do we deal with this in our cities. We've talked about a couple of counties before, but the one that I want to be bringing to you guys' attention today is the wonderful, the amazing Wright County.
Oh,
God,
Lord.
places to not move in Minnesota.
You know, Wright County, where I'm from. Ooh.
So here's the great part about this one. Not great. Here's the part about this one. We talk about a lot of things on this show that unfortunately is reactive. It's news that's already happened. It's sort of listen to it, call your lawmakers and say, don't do that again. But sort of that's where we have to stop. But this one is actually still in motion. And that's why we wanted to talk about it here today. So Wright County is considering to implement a total moratorium on cannabis businesses all the way through January 1st of 2025. Basically saying, if you want to start selling low-potency edibles, sorry, you're locked out. If you would like to start opening a cannabis business and licenses move forward quicker, unfortunately, you're locked out. And it really is not based in what's best for cities, not best for counties, not best for Minnesotans generally. And if you agree with that, or even if you disagree, but if you agree with that and want to go be part of that, there's actually a meeting coming up. So December 12th at 9:30 a.m., there's going to be a public hearing on this exact measure, on whether Wright County should have a moratorium on this. It's not in place yet. So we're telling you this not because it's a, hey, welcome to the shit list, but it's a,
prevent your county from
We're
ending on the
penciling
shit
your name
list.
in. We don't want to have to etch it in.
We're waving red flags in Wright County.
Yeah.
Where is Wright County? I want to say it's like north of here. Is it the St. Cloud area?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a little bit west, a little bit north of here. So if you're in the metro area, you're not too far from it. But not something that's going to be infecting like the city of Minneapolis, but more that outer ring of suburbs.
Sure.
Probably a beautiful place with some bad policy.
Yeah, and a place with a lot of townships that are going to fall under this moratorium. You do have some cities, St. Michael, of course, is there. But in terms of like smaller towns, this moratorium is going to be affecting them. That's going to be a pretty big impact.
Man, yeah. Show up. Not a lot of people show up to these city council meetings.
Yeah, so we'll put a link to that in the show notes, December 12th, 9:30 a.m. We've really got just one more news story to talk about today before we jump onto our awesome interview and jumping on to talk about some of the classes. And that is some news that came out of the Office of Medical Cannabis. Did you guys hear there was some news? Oh, no. Different news. This was not approved by the office themselves, but instead by that commissioner of the Department of Health. Every year, people can apply for new conditions, for new methods of medication delivery to be approved. And there was a lot of applications this year. Unfortunately, the only one that we can report on that got approved is vaporizing raw flower. So if you were someone that was buying raw flower out of a medical dispensary, technically, you were only supposed to be smoking that. Now you can also August 1st, you can also vaporize it legally in case you weren't already doing that.
That's like telling somebody you could only wipe your ass with the extra soft tissue.
Wow.
I mean, I get what you're saying, Marcus, because it's vaporizers is sort of the easiest, nicest way on your lungs.
It's smoother.
Yeah.
It for sure
I
is.
prefer to smoke, but
It's odd that they have that stipulation. So once I take the flower home, I'm limited in what I can do with it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and I'll be honest, I was sort of excited when I saw that. I thought like, oh, great, one less mode of prohibition. But when I looked at the other applications, and I want to make sure I'm getting this right. So people applied for a petition to allow medical patients to have plants, medical patients to have additional concentrates, medical patients to have nugs covered in oil. We've seen these in adult use states, and even rosin, which you could have learned about at our December 3rd Concentrate on Concentrate class. But if you wanted any of those things, unfortunately, the Department of Health has said there's just not enough peer-reviewed studies that show that they're beneficial. So we just need more research for the Department of Health to open it up, or we just need stores to open, and then medical patients can just buy it at a store.
You know how stupid that statement is? They know that because of federal prohibition that most of these, the type of studies, they like the double-blind placebo-controlled studies that you got to be approved by the National Institute of Drug Abuse and DEA, these prohibitionist federal agencies. Like, the reason that you don't have that so-called peer-review evidence, which there's actually like 30,000 studies out there, is because of federal prohibition. It's like, let's end that completely in Minnesota so we can get this research out here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely more to come on this. People, I should also say, people applied for anxiety, ADHD, so attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and then also opioid use disorder to be added. I mean, all things that I think we know people that have found relief with cannabis, and unfortunately, none of those have the amount of evidence required for the Department of Health to say yes. So,
Dude, the government itself reported how in Colorado after legalization, like they saw a 25% reduction in opiate abuse. Dude, there's evidence out here.
And unfortunately,
if you want to find it, you can find it easily.
And unfortunately, those patients are going to have to wait until adult use stores open, because this goes into effect 2024. The next approval wouldn't go into effect until middle of 2025. So if you're a medical patient, your next best opportunity is driving to Red Lake or White Earth or waiting for stores to open. Your opportunity to get medical cannabis is gone. A 4-hour drive from. So if you're in Wright County, where they are potentially banning cannabis, you're going to be spending 3 hours and 47 minutes in the car.
But go up there. Go shop at Red Lake.
Oh, absolutely.
You're going to find some fire flower, and concentrates that you can't get anywhere else. And we should support those communities in developing a thriving cannabis, market, Yeah. It's geographically disadvantaged, because most people don't even have the ability to drive that far or don't have the time.
Yeah.
But I think people should go do their holiday shopping in Red Lake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go stock up. If you got the money, go get you a quarter pound, whatever you're allowed to buy.
And they sell some good wild rice up there, too.
There you go. Absolutely.
Walleye.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a great transition, talking about places that are selling cannabis products. Red Lake, of course, is one of them. You can go check it out. But we're sort of at one of those places right now, the amazing, the incredible Dabbler Depot.
I
And when
don't
we come,
even think I'm buying beer from anywhere else after today.
no, this is our place.
This is where I go.
Well, when we come back right after an ad break, we're going to actually be hearing from the team here at Dabbler Depot, the cannabis side, learning a little bit more about how they choose their products, how they sort of build out their store, and how they ended up winning that Legacy Cup this year for the best dispensary. And then at the end, guys, we've got some cool news. We're going to be talking about some upcoming classes, definitely something that you want to stay on for. We're going to be talking through all of them, but also talking about some cool opportunities that we've got as well. So stay on tune for that.
I mean, this is the funnest school you can attend.
Yeah. Unleash your green thumb with the Minnesota Cannabis College's Getting Started Growing class. Join us on January 15th for an evening at the Wilderness Fitness and Co-working Space in Minneapolis. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. Dive into hands-on learning about cannabis cultivation, from seed selection to mastering environmental settings. Enjoy a speakeasy lounge experience, expert-led education, and a chance to win exclusive cannabis prizes. Network with fellow enthusiasts and even start your own cultivation journey. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned grower, this class offers invaluable insights. And seats are filling fast, so visit mncannabiscollege.org/start to reserve your spot. Grow your passion with us today. mncannabiscollege.org/start. Welcome, and we're back. So we're super excited to be here, not just in a studio, but in the Dabbler Depot studio with Dabbler Depot crew themselves. Welcome, guys. Cayle, Will, thanks, guys, so much for being here.
Oh, my gosh. Thanks for coming to our abode.
Yeah, we're super excited to be partnering with you guys on an ongoing basis moving forward, but also to have you on and to be able to talk about this place. It's definitely a place that has grown in popularity, and especially with that recent Legacy Cup, which I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper into. But thanks again so much, not only for coming here, but also really for having us.
Oh, my gosh, of course.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So, sort of take us through a little bit of that journey, walking through that Legacy Cup itself. So what brought each of you to the Minnesota cannabis industry? What brought you each to the depot itself? And sort of what has the journey here been like?
Oh, 100%. For me, like jumping into the cannabis industry, I come from like the craft beer world. I worked in that world for about 3 years, and I just fell in love with the creativity and just love that a lot of people put into those like creative efforts. They put a lot of effort into their brand itself, experiences, and like their story. I just think that that is so valuable in terms of like what people are doing in modern business. It's all about like the face, it's about the story. And so like that is really what drove me towards it, is even though it's like this big industry, it still feels like a small business with everybody kind of interacting with each other and helping each other out. Like there are going to be people that like there's infighting in any industry, but I haven't seen too much of it in at least in a little bit of the cannabis world that I've been in. But I would just say that like I just love the community and just like the camaraderie that I've kind of found within the industry itself.
Love that.
Yeah, so I kind of just fell into cannabis. So I came from the finance industry. I saw like a brand new, like novel industry that was kind of developing, and we can go into it a little bit further later on how I actually got the job here, maybe off camera. But no, I started working in the coffee shop, and they're like, oh, by the way, yeah, we sell cannabis. And I was like, oh, cool, like THC beers. And, I was that guy. And so I started off as kind of the coffee guy here. And then I just started to understand kind of the delivery mechanism of how we are able to sell THC beverages in a basically very welcoming environment where people don't feel weird coming in off the street. And I saw that concept and I was like, dude, this is super cool. And then I just kind of owned it. And so now here we are, a year later, and we've gone from a couple SKUs to a ton of SKUs, and yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, I feel like every time I come in this store, there's like a brand new shelf that's been built in there to have new products on it. It's been really cool.
Oh yeah, having people like knock on our door every day, being like, "Come try out our brand." It's been kind of the fun about it is that we're trying new things out all the time.
Okay, so now stepping back a bit, tell us a little bit about Dabbler Depot's like the rise in the cannabis industry. I mean, you talked a little bit about your background in terms of why you got into it. So talking about events and stepping into that, now people are leaving your store with edibles, drinks, and seeds. What has been like working for a cannabis business based on like a traditional alcohol forward type of company?
That's really been the interesting thing. So mostly just because the Beer Dabbler itself came from the Beer Dabbler events that have been taking place since 2008. And so kind of finding our footing within that world has been really interesting. Of a lot of our customer base, I'm sure that a lot of people that are like on our email list and our customers that we've had in the past are people that are aligned in the beer world.
Right.
And so it's been interesting to try to find the trends that beer drinkers do want and the trends that customers that are traditionally coming to the Dabbler Depot that not necessarily for cannabis, but then we can also bring them in as like our own customers. And even just people coming in just for cannabis and they might not even know that there's also alcohol here. So it's kind of been fun to see both sides of it.
Yeah, like I think the big thing that coming from a traditionally beer-centric business, we've had a lot of relationships with breweries and the brewers and the owners of these breweries. And so we initially started our THC product line, I think it was like North, Trail Magic, and I think there was one other, Clarity. Clarity was the other one. And so we started with 3 SKUs, and then the floodgates opened because all the breweries kind of started to jump on board. And coming from the Beer Dabbler and wanting to help support that and launch that, because Minnesota was one of the first where the breweries kind of got free reign to make THC product. We were able to kind of help them take that ball and run with it, and we were able to support the breweries in that regard. And I think, touching on the liquor store side, like people are coming in for alcohol. We sell a lot of beer here. We sell a lot of wine here. We have people that are unbelievable at spirits. And this offers a non-alcoholic option. And we've seen the rise of dry Januaries just in the last several years. And being able to offer a non-alcoholic option, like the number of people who do come into the coffee shop that don't even set foot on this side, it's a cool way to be able to introduce them to something that, previously this business hasn't really been able to offer. So, yeah.
So I've got a question, Will. As the cannabis buyer here at Dabbler Depot, what helps to distinguish the products that you choose to, put on the shelves?
Yeah, I feel like at first it really was like trying to get as many in our door as possible just because there weren't too many out there. And so I just didn't want other people to beat us to the punch of getting some of these brands in here. And so that was kind of my method for the start, was just like, well, what don't we have that somebody else has? But now that the market is like very, very oversaturated, we can kind of be picky now. And so we have people come into our, like, banging on our door probably like twice a week of being like, hey, I've got a new cannabis brand. I'd love if you guys would try it, bring it in, let's do something. Now that everyone around the country is kind of making them too, it's been kind of fun to just try all the different things. But I would say one of the main things that kind of distinguishes it is we look for those people, we look for those stories, and we want to help people that are in our community and are trying to do something really cool and are supporting other people around them too. So we always say for them to come in and talk with us and meet us and have a conversation, because that is so much more meaningful than let me ship you an item and you could try it, let me know if you want it. So I think it's just like having that relationship, I think, is the start of it. And it's always setting that good first impression, like with us and with them, making sure that it's a good fit between us as well. Because honestly, the reality is just some products aren't right for certain stores. And so being able to like tell certain brands that, I feel a lot more people are becoming more understanding of that.
So it sounds like you're looking for brands that have soul and not just like quality taste, but
quality. I mean, quality still matters. And
Yeah,
if you got like an insane product and like it's one of the best I've ever had, then I'm gonna bring you in.
So talking about the best of the best, going back to the Legacy Cup, congratulations again on that big win. It was an amazing experience for me. It was the first time going.
So fun.
Kind of talk about what that meant for you in terms of you guys winning that award, and what do you think really set you apart in the minds of the judges for you to take that home?
Well, I just thought it was a really great event. Like everybody coming together. Like it was just so sweet to see everybody just have that passion for cannabis and to be it in the mainstream and kind of destigmatizing it a little bit just in the eyes of the community, that we can have these fantastic giant events. And the only crazy thing that happened was the weather we had to deal with the day beforehand when everybody's tents were flying everywhere. That's the most commotion that we had at the whole event. And I'm sure I'm sure a lot of people thought that like things were going to happen and it was going to be a crazy thing and a crazy event that we can't control. And it just was a great event of love and community and people coming together. And we were so grateful when we heard that we had won. It was fantastic. It meant so much. It meant so much to us because this one was a like audience voted award.
Right.
And so it was really cool to see that like our customers, our other people that are fans of us that have been following Beer Dabbler since 2008. It's wonderful to know that like we have people that care about us and that are fans of us. And so it really like it's hard to speak words to it just because it was so the moment when like our boss came over with the trophy, it was it was
I mean, the
fantastic.
People's Choice Award is, I mean, nothing compares to that versus the
It's an honor.
expert judges. Like,
Well, and I think it just shows you that like the effort that you guys are trying to put in, that energy you're trying to create of really being Minnesota forward and Minnesota focused is coming through. I mean, I come into your guys' shop and learn about brands that I had not heard of before that are blocks away from where I live. And it's really cool being able to come in here and see that. So very well deserved. Congrats again, guys.
You guys are innovators, and community is very important to you. And you guys had some fun back in October with your Halloween event, and Tanner was in his costume. So talk a little bit about that in terms of being like, I think, the first legal cannabis event in the state since legalization. And tell us a little bit about that perspective and what do you guys have in the store in the future?
Yeah, the Halloween party was a blast. We were a little worried about it because we were looking at the weather and we thought it was going to rain, and then it looked like it was going to sleet. Then it looked like it was going to snow for most of the day, and so we were worried that everybody was going to get stuck outside. All of our THC vendors were going to be outside, stuck in the snow, in the slush, battling the elements. And but no, we were really happy to see how it turned out. It was so much fun. Like we just got to share a fun night with a bunch of local brands, and the biggest thing is we were able to bring in some new brands that previously we just hadn't gotten to bringing in, and everybody got to dress up. They got to decorate their booths. They got to share their stories. I know like Me Soda Essence had probably one of the coolest booths there.
Absolutely.
But it was super fun. All the guys had a blast. It was good to really like have a community moment that we haven't had to really have yet with everybody in the cannabis industry. So
yeah. Well, as Shana said, it was that first one with snow that we know of in like the entire state of Minnesota with legal cannabis consumption, legal cannabis sales. It was really, really a fun time. And, you said it was going to be a little chilly, but those fire pits you guys had kept it nice and toasty all day. So the cannabis products helped too. That's for sure.
not bad.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that we've only been legal for a few months and we're already heading into 2024, and there's been a lot of changes happening from the state level. So what does 2024 look like for you guys in terms of what we can expect from your team?
Yeah, dry January is going to be a big month. We're having a blast in the holiday season right now. We've got we want to start working on some new products. That's definitely a big thing that we want to do into the new year. We get to see a lot of what our customers are looking for and what wins at our point of sale. And so we want to see if we can make something cool for our community here. And then we also have another big project coming early next year. So you'll have to stay tuned. I can't share a little bit anything more than that, but you guys will have to stay tuned on our social media. But we'll do a big reveal for that. So
awesome. Well, we'll definitely be on the lookout for that. That sounds really exciting. All right. Well, so we have a number of people that listen and as of today watch our show. And so one question that we get a lot from the brand side of stuff is what can they be doing to really get in touch with you guys? If they're interested in having their products in your store, like is just showing up with their product the best way to do it? Is sending you an email? Sort of how's the best way to get in contact if they want to get their product onto your guys' shelves?
I would say honestly, either sending an email and just kind of introducing themselves, and honestly setting up a meeting to like my favorite thing has been with like Cayle and I kind of tag team our kind of initial meetings with people and just kind of give them our vibe, kind of feel out their vibe, and see if it's a great relationship that we can start. And so I either coming right into the store, but I would say like setting up a meeting with us is probably the better bet. That both of us are here and we're able to chat. But I mean, honestly, if you ever wanted to just come in, check out the spot, introduce yourselves, drop off some product, that's always a great method too. But feel free to always just send us an email and we can get a relationship started.
Sweet. Is there an email you want to drop here that people can be reaching out to?
Yeah, they can just send it right to thc@dabblerdepot.com.
Awesome.
So I want to take this a little bit further, if we don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
What compelled y'all to like reach out to us to try to form this partnership? Like,
Oh yeah. So I actually think I met Tanner at the cloning class.
Yeah.
It was the day before legalization. So what was that? The 30th of June?
31st of July.
31st of
it was
July.
just a couple hours before legal cannabis in Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah. That was so I met Tanner briefly. The event was super cool, and I've started following the Minnesota Cannabis College a little bit more closely after that, and being able to kind of shake his hand and talk. And after that, I just have kind of kept a pulse on what you guys have been up to. And when we were throwing the Halloween event, I wanted something more than just a THC product out here. And I was like, I wonder if Tanner would come out. And so, he was like super happy to do it, and it was a blast. And so that was really, I think, the catalyst was the cloning class, to be honest. So, yeah.
I love that. Well, and I think it shows the power of really the community events that we're trying to host, but that others are hosting as well. I mean, that Halloween event is a perfect example. The amount of connections that we made with people that had no idea that there was a Minnesota Cannabis College, or really that there was education around cannabis generally. They knew about cannabis products, but that was sort of where everything stopped in their mind. So truly, I think it's been so cool having this place as an education hub out here, and we're excited to be able to bring the podcast here. So thank you guys for having us.
Like I hadn't heard of you guys until I saw your discourse on the OCM leader and all the conversations surrounding that, just because that was what everybody was talking about at that time. So, and I just really appreciated like the info you guys were giving out too. It wasn't just like, because you hear from when all of these things and rumors and information is going out, it's kind of hard to find like a place where people have their facts straight. And so it was cool to listen to your guys' podcast on it, where you're talking about some of the information that's coming out and keeping people educated on that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it.
Yeah, we definitely really appreciate it.
well, I just have to say, when Tanner first brought the potential partnership with us, I didn't even know about the Dabbler. Well, I live in Nokomis, so I did see the shop. I haven't been in there yet. But I knew about Beer Dabbler and the Beer Dabbler festivals, so I was like, these people know what they're doing. Even before I went into the website and found out what you're doing here, which I'm in awe. I'm in awe. This is
It's
such a
really
beautiful
nice
place.
space.
The energy is great.
Yeah.
So I think this is a partnership that's it's going to thrive. I think y'all are very smart to do this with us, and we're very grateful for the opportunity, because we exist to help people who would like to find a career or who want to start businesses in the emerging legal cannabis industry. So as a nonprofit, we're here to help other people. So I've been in the cannabis space in Minnesota for like 9 years now. And before legalization, I have to say it was a very divisive space in terms of like entrepreneurs and advocates. Things have been much better since legalization, so I'm encouraged. But thanks for creating this space for us and for doing such exemplary cannabis business.
Oh my gosh. Well, I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I think the cannabis industry is very overwhelming. There's so many different directions that you can take. So if either one of you can answer, what would be like the 5 key takeaways for someone who's wanting to start a business in terms of, I believe in failing forward, right? So what to look out for that you think would be important for them?
Yeah, I think from an entrepreneurial standpoint, one of the biggest things right now, if you want to stay in the low-dose hemp space, I mean, by all means, this industry is not going to go anywhere if done properly. And I just say that because I see there are some underpinnings of the low dose hemp world that are going to work. And I think it's better to get your feet wet in that rather than jumping into the controlled cannabis world, the adult use space out the gate. But I think, you're going to have to be ready for compliance. Compliance is a big thing. I came from the finance industry and I dealt with compliance a lot. And so when it comes to all of the stuff coming down the track in the next year, but even the stuff that we saw last year with HHC and things like that leaving the shelf, and all of the new rules that continue to come out, making sure that everybody's staying within compliance. And I know you guys have a retail handbook for that. So no, I thought that was super cool too. But another thing too is just understanding that everybody has a market and every product has a market. And that's something that I talk about to vendors that come in here, is understanding, like, I'm no Nostradamus or anything when it comes to this stuff. But when I see somebody come through the door and they have a product and they have a story, I can tell if it's going to win or not, because the entrepreneur has something behind it. And there's so many small brands that come in here and they're a one-trick pony, but they do that one thing super, super well. So well that, like, there's no one else in this space, even if they have more money, that can come in and take that little bit of market share from you. And you can build a business on 100 super fans in this space, especially in Minnesota. We're a very community-centric market. And so there is a way for people to succeed, even if you're really small.
Mm-hmm. So really understanding your why. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Do you have any favorite brands at this point? I mean, within
Ooh, that's a hot question.
That is a very hot question. I mean, I would say probably one of my favorites. That's like the person behind it, the product itself, and kind of what it does. My man Gus Dean, I would say, his cold brew is fantastic. Probably some of the best that I've had, like non-THC. And so it's what I drink sometimes first thing in the morning, and kind of gets my day going.
Yeah, listeners of the show know that we tried that on our podcast, and man, is it delicious. It's really, really good.
Yeah, it's literally in my refrigerator right now.
Yeah, like Gus Dean's one of those people that kind of checks that box, right? Like, anybody else can still come in and make a cold brew, but Gus has, like, it's Gus Dean coffee. Yeah. You can't take the cold brew out of Gus, or the thing doesn't work, right? But one of my favorite products, I think, Me Soda Essence Polverones, those are incredible, and those are another product that, like, someone can come in and try to rip it off, but it's not going to go anywhere. And so that one can become a staple, and what somebody sees as like a low-dose hemp product that they're like super about, and she can always expand upon that. And I think that's really, really cool.
I love that. Well, both products that I have in my apartment right now, so definitely good picks. I highly agree. So we're actually in just a minute going to walk into the coffee shop area, going to pick out some products that we're going to sample on the podcast today. But I have a question for you. For those wanting to have a similar experience, being able to look through the products, being able to look through the cannabis seeds that you guys have, being able to perhaps look through the beer and alcohol section if that's their thing, where would they go about finding the Dabbler Depot?
So that you guys can find us at 1545 7th Street West in St. Paul. And we have a South Minneapolis location as well.
That is at 4152 28th Street in Minneapolis.
Awesome. Perfect.
But before we go, I actually have some questions for you guys.
That's
if you're
what I
ready to
wanna
be
ask.
in the hot seat.
Yeah,
right.
Let's go. Yeah.
Great. So I got a couple questions for you guys, actually.
Ooh, all right.
I was hoping so.
What challenges do you think most professionals will run into in cannabis over the next year? Like, what kind of obstacles do you think might present themselves with the changing of everything going on right now?
Oh, that's such a great question. I mean, the biggest thing that we've been seeing from one side of the market, which is people that really have that passion for cannabis, but maybe not yet the formal training or any sort of, let's be real, professional experience behind it, is just they don't know the steps that are needed to be able to run that business. Mm-hmm. You know, selling cannabis is one thing, but running a successful cannabis business is unfortunately an entirely different thing. And what we've seen in other states is even if there's, you know, supportive license structures for social equity applicants, even if there's perhaps some funding and grants available for them, if there's really not that backup of training, backup of, you know, how do you run books? How do you, you know, hire and fire people? What are the foundations of filing an LLC? Like, I think a lot of these things that are sort of those business 101 really people need to be getting before they're starting that cannabis business. And I think, unfortunately, what we've seen in other states is people are starting that business and then learning the hard way a lot of those lessons.
Yeah.
Just because there's not a ton of support there for them.
Sure.
And I think even beyond just being able to run a business, like the cannabis industry is complex because, you know, it's legal in Minnesota, but it's still federally prohibited. And so with all the states that have gone before us, you know, regulation compliance is it. If you can't comply with those regulations, most states are going to shut you down.
Sure.
And if you're undercapitalized, you're just not going to be able to survive it. So, like, I hear people talking about the green rush.
Yeah.
Like, most people in the gold rush didn't get rich, you know.
Exactly.
And, like, in most industries, most businesses fail. I think the fatality rate in the cannabis industry is going to be higher than most industries. I'm just being frank. And so people really need to, they have to, you know, people think that cannabis is sexy, but, like, if you don't like retail or manufacturing, like, don't get in the industry. Because, you know, put the cannabis aside, it's retail or it's manufacturing.
Yeah.
So, like, if people don't have that background, they really should understand that's what they're getting into.
Sure. So now, I mean, now that we touched on like challenges, what are you guys excited for in the next year?
I mean, I'm super geeked to see, like, I think, you know, we're from Minnesota, so we're biased. We do have a superiority complex. And I even think coming from the legacy market, when all this stuff was coming to the West Coast, they thought they could send their, like, throwaway herb. But we're like the pickiest consumers in the whole country. So I really think the Minnesota market is literally, I mean, I'm biased, but I don't like to exaggerate. Like, I'm looking forward to all the creativity and the innovation with the products. Like, we're going to have some of the best brands within the nation. Yeah. It's just a shame because of federal prohibition that it'll be, like, limited to, you know, interstate trade, not, you know, intrastate, not interstate.
And also for me, I think it's the diversity piece. I mean, I joined with these guys because of equity, you know, essentially just the background of the BIPOC community and really being able to create a space and have a voice for them. So I'm really excited to see women and people who may not traditionally, you think, are cannabis users or want to get in that industry and what that would look like, as Marcus talked about, just the innovation piece. So I'm really excited about that too.
Yeah, we want to see the diversity in the industry.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And what you spoke to a little bit of just like anybody uses cannabis. Like I've talked to mothers that it's becoming destigmatized at like to play with their kids and to do extra things, and people who come into our shop and talk about like their PTSD and other problems that they're dealing with, that just takes the edge off. Just helps.
Right.
I mean, if you boil it all down, for whatever people's reasons are, it's to feel better. And 100%. So I'm excited to see, you know, the waning of the stigma and people feeling safe and free to, you know, choose a safer option, you know. So I'm excited for the freedom that people are able to experience. Yeah. I've advocated for this for so long, and I had a lot of old people saying, when is this going to be legal? Is it going to happen before I die? And so like the Legacy Cup was a beautiful thing because for many years people have been like keeping this a secret. Like, a lot of people have been ashamed about being a cannabis consumer. So there's a level of low level of liberation that comes with this. So.
100%. We would have people come into our shop when we had first opened up, and it wasn't legalized yet. People come and be like, "You guys got that? Like those drinks? That it has THC in it?"
I know. They got a whisper like this.
Yeah. And so it's actually been really cool since legalization, seeing people that aren't like traditional cannabis users come in and they're like, yeah, I use every day. And like, you wouldn't know it with some people. And it's fantastic to just see how it's been able to kind of just have the boom in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
The fun part too is I have a gang of police officers that come in here for coffee and donuts, and then they actually remark about how we sell THC product, but they'd rather people buy it from us. And I was like, cool, yeah. I mean, they come in, they laugh about it. They're like, how many guys come here out of uniform? And I was like, I don't know, I couldn't tell you they're out of uniform.
I mean, they need it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's teachers, police officers out of uniform, nurses. But these are people who traditionally have been ashamed of using cannabis, and now they come to the local coffee shop and they get their donuts and they get their THC and they give their kid their donut and they walk out the door, and it's so cool. It's a totally different market. It's not how I ever envisioned cannabis in Minnesota. And I'm just speaking through my lens, because this is where I spend most of my time, right? But it's super cool to see, and it's super cool to see that stigma kind of dissolve as well.
So, as far as I understand it, most people that weren't consumers before legalization, they were mainly afraid not only of being criminalized, but losing their jobs, their careers.
Yeah.
So, this is a big deal. It's not about people having fun, getting high, although that's a good part. That's the fun part. But it's just people being free to feel better.
And then I'll say it. I'm excited for the equity part. I'm excited for us to be able to build what I truly believe will be one of the best cannabis industries in the entire country. But what I'm really excited for is to be able to walk into a store and to buy a high-quality cannabis product made by some of the wonderful producers that we know that are producing products today. I think it's going to be really awesome to be able to not have to have it be a stigma-wrapped experience, to not have it to be something that is so linked with that legacy market, which really got us to where we are today. But to have it be an experience like walking into Dabbler Depot, where you walk up to a counter, you say, this is what I want, and you walk out with your cannabis products. And it doesn't need to be some big ordeal. It can be an errand you run on the way home.
Yeah, because it's not a big deal. I mean, the only problem was people being criminalized for this,
Or people thinking that you can only just smoke it. There's other ways to consume it.
Yeah,
So breaking down that stigma. Well,
I mean,
if you don't like the smell, then there's other ways.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Especially in the edible space right now, it's so crazy to see what people are doing. We have THC granola on our shelf. THC honey sticks. It's crazy to see just what everybody is doing. It doesn't just have to be a fruit snack, or it doesn't just have to be a super bubbly beverage. We have some that are non-carbonated. Because there are some people that come in that are I hate seltzers.
Man,
Right. Yeah.
I'm not a seltzer fan. I mean, there's some good ones, but people need non-carbonated beverages.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the innovation.
Yeah. Well, guys, truly, thank you so much
you
for
so
having us
much.
out here today, having us out here on an ongoing basis, but for coming on today, talking about your experiences, talking about this wonderful place, and just for telling people a little bit more about Dabbler Depot.
Yeah,
The
thanks, guys.
people's choice.
Absolutely.
Champs.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be back again very soon.
Stay tuned. Hello, friends. We are live here, coming for you live in the studio. Welcome, Marcus and Tanner. How does it feel?
Feels like a wonderful time.
A wonderful time.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
Winter Wonderland.
Yeah. It was great. We just had the experience of walking through the store, being able to look at sort of what kind of products are in there, and we're going to be able to try some with you guys today. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
So you guys picked out some products for us to try. Do you want to take us through a little bit about what we're going to be sampling through today?
Yeah. So first one we're going to start out with is going to be this newer one from Sharab, Shrubs. They started as more of a kind of alcohol mixer into kind of product that they use a lot of fresh fruit and a lot of other things to use just in a mocktail or even in any of your cocktails. And they just do a lot of really interesting flavors. And so they came out with a blueberry poblano flavor. It's a lower dose. It's 3 milligrams. So it won't get you out of your seat to make you fall right out. But it's a really, really tasty one.
Awesome. Well, we're
It's
looking
a
forward to
sexy,
trying that.
We'll start on it.
sexy ingredient.
Blueberries are sexy.
And while he's getting that one poured, I can kind of touch on these others. So the Chronic Tonic, which you see right over there, the Chronic Tonic is from Earl Giles. So that one's going to be kind of like a tangerine tonic. They do a lot of cool stuff. You may have seen the Pifton and stuff like that before. But
Yeah, absolutely.
the Chronic Tonic's been, it's just a interesting little little beverage. The Bog Boy from Oliphant. So it's the true flavor, or the true name of it is Grandma Got Ran Over by a Bog Boy, and yeah. So the story behind that one, I think it was a couple years ago. This is a story through like the game of telephone, right? But one of the owners of Oliphant was driving their company vehicle through a cranberry bog, and he swerved off the road and crashed it. And the story around the office was this monster called the Bog Boy came out of the cranberry bog and shoved his car off the road. And so they do some pretty funky art over there at Oliphant, and so they actually drew the Bog Boy. We'll take pictures of it and put it on socials for everybody to see, but it's quite the story on the can. So, but it's cranberry ginger, and the ginger is super forward on it, but it's a great little holiday drink. People here have been going crazy for it. And then the last one is the Utopia Borealis maple. It's like a maple sparkling water. And so you're going to get some of the natural electrolytes from the maple syrup. But I think it's the flavor on it's going to be more like maple sap rather than maple syrup. So it's not going to be sweetened with any additional sugars. So it's going to be a pretty balanced like seltzer.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Well, you guys definitely created a full spread for us. What I'm super excited about is now that we're in video format, I mean, people can actually see the colors of the beverages. We've been talking about like, oh, it's bright red or whatever, but now people can actually see this delicious colors of these. So, yeah, thank you guys. Which one should we start with here today?
I suppose we'll just go right in order. So
Beautiful.
we'll start with the blueberry, and then we'll just like move on down the line.
Beautiful.
Salute.
Cheers, guys. That is good.
So yeah, with the Shrubs, you're gonna get a lot of that, like that vinegar, kind of almost like a kombucha, but without. Some people say they're funkier. I don't think they're as funky as a kombucha, but they definitely do have that like vinegar forward.
type.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that Poblano flavor that sort of comes through a little bit. It reminds me of like some of the other pepper ciders that people might get in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I would say it's a little more like vegetal than it is like spicy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I really love it that way. Like when I saw it, I was like, that. If nothing else, I will buy all of our stock.
You know, it tastes like a gentle kiss on the neck.
Gentle kiss.
I'll take that.
Okay.
You guys can get that on a T-shirt coming soon. To
Literally.
Wow.
Dabbler Depot, a gentle kiss on the neck.
What's next?
So the next one's going to be the Earl Giles Chronic Tonic. Yeah, let's get that in the shot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that one's going to have a little bit more tangerine, so you're definitely going to taste that. But the color on it doesn't look like they added any additional colors to make it look a certain way, which I enjoy. Sometimes the cup appeal doesn't always need to be there, but
It has kick to it for sure.
I'm liking that one. Yeah, you can definitely taste that. Does that have actual terpenes in it? Is that what that flavoring is coming from? Or is that all just like a natural flavoring?
I think it's just the natural flavoring. Their newer like Pifton ones are all terpene infused, but I think that's just your natural flavors from your hemp extract, really.
Well, that is delicious.
Yeah, that
They
one-
really
that one-
nailed
I
that
like that
flavor
one.
coming
Yeah.
through. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a standout.
Oh,
Yeah, that one's super cool. I've liked a lot of the stuff that's come out of Earl Giles. Swinging. Everyone has been cool and innovative. And you know, it's a drink that you can't really find anywhere else, and so it falls into that uniqueness. And they always usually have a spot on our shelves in some way, shape, or form.
Very cool.
Next one's going to be the Bog Boy. So get ready for that one.
Wow. Similar to
Like,
their
wouldn't-
other
wouldn't-
beverages.
But wouldn't you say it's like nothing? Like
Yeah,
that's the
I
thing.
was
It's
about
like
to say, I
it's
really-
so interesting that ginger really hits you. Like you get that kind of deep cranberry flavor on the back end. Yeah, it's definitely a holiday sipper.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, it gives holiday vibes.
It makes me think of old people with flavor.
Oh my goodness. Seniors.
I'll take that.
Not coming to a T-shirt.
I live in a neighborhood with a lot of old people, and I love it.
Wow. Yeah,
I don't people in the Parkway.
I like that one. I'm gonna be finishing this one.
Yeah, that one's fantastic.
The second one is my favorite.
And then the last one will be the Utopia Borealis maple beverage. Thing that's really great about that is they source all of their own maple syrup. They grow all of their own hemp in a farm. Mel and Kenny are the two people behind it. And they dry and cure all of their hemp. Then they just send it off to Superior Molecular to make the material. And then they send their maple syrup and the material over to Bent Paddle, 30 minutes away from them. And they make the beverage for them.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
We did an event with Canna Connect up in Duluth, actually at the Canna Lounge at Bent Paddle just a couple months ago. Super fun time. But I saw this beverage there and didn't get a chance to try it, so I'm really excited to be sampling it today.
Yeah, I love how light it is. Like that's one of the main things. Is like you think if you hear like a maple, like sparkling water or a maple soda, like you're thinking it is going to be way over the top, but it's got like a really really nice like subtlety to it.
This is easy like Sunday morning.
I was about to say I need some pancakes.
Yeah. So it's perfect wake and bake beverage.
Sure, yeah.
Nice plate of pancakes. You don't even need the maple syrup. You can have it all in the can.
Yeah.
I love cakes.
A big stack. What type of cakes?
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Well,
So now that we've had a couple sips, kind of wanted to turn the mic back to you guys again. So with the Minnesota Cannabis College, I guess, what would you guys say your mission statement is, and then what kind of goals do you guys have set for the next year? Like what are a couple big things that people can expect from you guys?
Oh, that's such a great question. So our mission is really to help support people who want to become part of the cannabis industry or want to grow their own cannabis at home. You know, our main focus is on helping people that have been traditionally barred from some of the entrepreneurial or employment paths that we all know, but that really have not been available to people for decades, for really a lot longer. So our goal is really to help be that bridge. You know, there's people with the passion, there's people who really have the drive to be part of the industry, who maybe just need someone to sort of point them in the right direction or give them a class on how to run their books or, you know, maybe walk them through the process of being able to grow cannabis at home. Our mission is really just to help people connect with this plant in new and exciting ways. You know, we've chatted as a board many, many times about Colorado and states coming online and it being so exciting. There being this big influx of jobs, and then there not really being the people to fill those jobs that really should be part of the industry. And so our goal is to really help people, especially over the next year as our industry is coming online, get the information and the training they need to be able to go and grow the industry that we all want to be having on board.
Yeah.
Sure.
And for us to continue to be leaders, bring you fun events,
Sure.
more information. So yeah, we're excited about that.
That's great. Well, what can a business, either a fledgling business or an established business, what can they do to kind of help people that have traditionally been ignored by this industry, or people who have been demonized previously for working in, the legacy market?
Yo, that's such a great question. I mean, Marcus, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on this, but one that comes to my mind specifically is a couple weeks back, we tried to have a product on the show that really donated money from their proceeds to helping support social equity entrepreneurs. And unfortunately, we weren't really able to find one. And I know that this is an industry that people are not making as much money as I think some consumers think that they are. But I really would love to see the people that are already part of this industry really sort of put their money where their mouth is and really help to support people who want to be the entrepreneurs. If you're a store, providing space for people that are social equity applicants to really have their products front and centered and being able to meet with consumers. And if you're someone who has that financial ability to go and invest in businesses, think about what entrepreneurs you want to be supporting. Marcus, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think that it's imperative for people who are going to take advantage of this legalization and profit from it to give back, and to recognize all of the damage that was done through prohibition, and to just be intentional, Like, we're going to be intentional about having some diversity in our business. We're going to be intentional about, creating space on our shelves for, quality, social equity businesses. Yeah, and just give back. Yeah. You could create a roundup program at your store and give to the Minnesota Cannabis College.
Yeah. We used to joke back in the days of the campaign of full legalization that if people donated like $10 for every ounce of weed that they bought, like we'd be able to change the world. And I think if people looked at their cannabis purchases similarly today, like, yeah, you're going to the store and you're buying $80 of products, and really think about, what are you doing to support other businesses through that? But I mean, that's just the consumer side. I think there's so much more to helping to support people, but yeah, markets, absolutely.
So in terms of like, I mean, something you guys didn't touch on, but I think you guys probably definitely have knowledge on is incubation. So how could a business, is there a way that a business could take in people and give them those skills that might be necessary for them to succeed? Because I know you touched on that a lot earlier, where people might get licensors or they might get access to the industry, but then all the other pieces aren't there for them to actually perform. So yeah, could you guys speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, we had the opportunity a couple of years back to work with a grower and a processor. So Loon Lab here in town, and then Grounded Gardens about an hour west. They're now actually here in St. Paul, but they were previously about an hour west. And really being able to try to create some internship programs for people that want to maybe spend a couple hours a week, knowing that there's not a lot of money in this industry. You might not get paid a bunch, but at least having that opportunity to go and get that experience. So I think if it's someone listening right now that's running a cannabis business, think about maybe creating an opportunity for someone to come in who maybe you wouldn't traditionally hire, or maybe a role that, isn't the highest priority right now, but really would provide some high quality education to someone. You lay the seed now, and that person can grow into your future CFO. They can grow into your future head grower. They can grow into your head processor. Like, I think really creating the employees that you want to have in the future now, if you're a business. And then in terms of like people that are hoping to get a license and then create incubator programs afterwards, really we're just sort of hoping that the rulemaking process goes in a way that will allow businesses to do that in a way that really supports, these social equity applicants, and not just sort of provides a space for them to go and work and sort of lose out on their business.
Sure.
Yeah, I like the idea of internships, but I think if we're talking about people who are trying to be entrepreneurs and maybe they don't have a background, an extensive background, providing some level of mentorship for promising, aspiring entrepreneurs, I think would be great for companies that have that capacity.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you have that business, reach out. We'd love to help work with you to bring people into your store, bring people into your lab, bring people into your grow. They really want to be able to put that work in, want to be that future business owner, entrepreneur, whatever be it. Create that space. It's such a great question. Thanks for asking.
To create opportunities.
Yeah.
And so I guess what trends do you guys see happening in cannabis that are great, and maybe some trends that are not so great that are just kind of coming around here as we move into the new year?
What I think is great is you sort of have three people from different angles coming at this. So I think we all sort of have different answers to it. Shana, do you want to take it first?
I think for me is essentially just from a Black woman, just essentially seeing the creativity and innovation stepping up there. I know a lot of women are interested in really stepping out and kind of like eradicating, like, okay, now it's okay to kind of like speak and mention that, I'm a user. So just to really see some of the creative ways and bring that feminine energy to the state, I think for me, I'm most excited about.
I mean, the whole hemp-derived market is a new trend. So, like, there's a lot of things we didn't see coming 3 years ago. So, like, I think it remains to be seen how viable the hemp-derived market will be once adult use cannabis is now being able to be bought and sold. So, there's a lot more questions than answers right now. But I'm looking forward to the day when people can go into a shop and buy flower. Because the reality is not everybody, just like some people can't smoke and they want edibles or beverages, some people I'm a lightweight with the edibles. I could smoke for 2 hours, and I'm only going to get so high. But if I have like 50 milligrams, like I might be having like a winter weighted blanket on my.
I mean, and it's crazy. There are some people that like you can literally have like an enzyme inside of your stomach that you will never be able to get high from edibles.
Right.
And so there are some people that they need smokables.
Right.
That's like the only way that they're going to be able to actually get high.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's body chemistry is different. Everybody's tolerance levels are different, delivery method preferences. So I'm excited to see flower. Flower is already available. I mean, they say you can possess 2 pounds at home. Where did it come from? Right. Well, I mean, I can answer that, but not on the recording.
Well, so I sort of have a 2-pronged answer. One that I think is really Minnesota focused, and one that I just personally really hope happens. Mm-hmm. The Minnesota focused one is we're the first state where literally throughout the entire state of Minnesota right now, you can buy cannabis products prior to adult use coming online. I mean, the state of Minnesota, the Department of Health has a map you can go look at, shows you all the little dots where people are selling cannabis products. And I mean, the first time I pulled it up and saw 2,800 businesses, It was shocking. And to see dots in parts of the state that I never would have suspected. So what I'm really curious to see is, in Colorado, I keep coming back to that, but you had communities that did not have cannabis in it before. Look at the prospect of having cannabis come in, and really we're fighting it hard. And I mean, to this day, we see parts of Colorado that, you wouldn't know cannabis is legal there. That they don't have any businesses that are allowed to sell it or allowed to grow it or really allowed to be part of the industry. But here, even if you go to rural Minnesota, there's likely a couple places selling cannabis already. I'm really super curious to see what that does to really impact where businesses are located throughout Minnesota. And then on the very personal side, I'm a big fan of solventless concentrates. That's something that has not really been allowed here in Minnesota. And what we're going to have that is uniquely Minnesotan is about a year and a half, depending upon who you ask, where people are able to grow cannabis and create their own solventless concentrates prior to any licensed businesses coming online. So it's potential that we'll have people that will have a year and a half of growing and processing experience under their belt. Sure, on a small scale, but at least have that experience before even any stores are open. So,
that's fantastic.
Colorado, there was a little bit of time where you could grow maybe prior to that, pretty limitedly, no processing allowed. We don't have that. We can openly grow, openly process, and I think those are going to be the people that have some of the high quality products that really come online in a couple of months.
I think another thing that's important to mention is that there are a lot of Minnesotans who left the state years ago to go participate in these, emerging legal markets that came before us. So they're coming back with a lot of experience and skills. So we're going to have very high quality products here, especially as the market matures. 10 years from now, we're going to have products that can compete with any state. Yeah.
Completely agree. And I think that I've seen some discourse online also of some people that if they leave and come back, are they really supporting Minnesota from the start? And it's no, I love that people are going and grabbing information from these legal states and figuring it out and then coming on back and sharing your knowledge with the people that are trying to get into it now. That's such an asset. Talking to people that are in the industry that have been in, Mel from Utopia Borealis, she was in the legal market in Canada for years. And so seeing her experience and different things that she's seen in that market, how it differs from the market here, has just been that information is invaluable.
Yeah, we've tried to make it clear to people that there's a big difference between I work out of Georgia, my office is there, but I'm sort of Minnesota based, so you can work with me, I'm a Minnesota brand, versus someone who went and worked in another state, but went to the same high school as me and worked in another state for a couple of years and came on home. That is a Minnesota-made market.
Yeah, that's your neighbor.
Yeah. We've actually looked at our stats. We see you in Arizona. We see you in other states. Come home. We really need you here. We really want those growers, those processors. Definitely.
A lot of them have moved back already, or they're planning on coming back, or thinking about coming back. And especially if they're in some of those West Coast states that really ruin legalization. This is a mulligan for a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, you get to watch a state, hopefully, get it right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, any trends that you guys are looking forward to over the next couple of months? I mean, you've watched sort of that hemp market shift and change so dramatically over the last year. What do you think is going to come up over the next couple of years?
So, hey, it's really funny because this is something that we see every day, and I kind of geek out about it because I saw this market kind of develop, I saw the products develop, and then I saw the out-of-state powers come in, and I think right now you're seeing a huge demand for CBG, like no other in the low dose space, In the early part of the market cycle, it was like, what CBG? I want 1-to-1 CBD THC, or I just want 5 milligram THC. No calorie, no sugar, please. And then you had 50 of them. And then people kept making them, but the goalposts moved a little bit, and now consumers were looking for something different. And I think now, just chemically, like consumers, we've seen it, at least here, people want CBG. And I think now demand for that is going to be met. I mean, it should be, because we haven't been quiet about it. We've been screaming it to all of our vendors, like, hey, come on, let's go. Because those products are succeeding, and I think that demand might be met. And I think we might, the next trend, I'm not too sure. I know, from what I've heard, CBN's gotten a little expensive in the market. So I think you're going to see that kind of peter off a little bit. But I think that people are, especially now with functional mushrooms and adaptogen-based products, those are definitely starting to see a rise. And I think that market is starting to flesh itself out. Like we brought in Odyssey elixirs months and months and months and months ago, probably 8 months ago. So we brought in Odyssey elixirs about 8 months ago, and I was like, no, this thing will work. It's a mushroom drink that doesn't have THC, but it can also act as kind of like a bailout provision for people who consume a little bit too much THC, get some caffeine, get some L-theanine, get some lion's mane, and, it can act as kind of something to keep you sharp once you consume, or if you've consumed a little bit too much, but also it's a replacement for your standard energy drink. And it's not a cannabis product, right? But it kind of can share shelf space with that stuff. And now you see products like Flow coming out from Stash. Yeah. That's a really cool product. The market likes it. And so I think more like functional products will be coming to market, because every time it's been done in the last, I'd say 6 to 12 months, we've seen a nod from the market, at least in our stores. So
yeah, we a couple months back tried that balanced with adaptogens product on our show. And I mean, it's really cool seeing how open and accepting the cannabis industry has been to what other ways can we enhance people's lives? What other products can we add to perhaps provide additional things in these products? Adaptogens, mushrooms just being one of them. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, I'll do similar thing for you of all what I've been seeing, and then more of a personal one. That I as Cayle spoke to it, I just think that like people are getting more educated on these things, and even they're understanding that the terms indica, sativa just are not that accurate anymore. And so people are looking for more of the cannabinoids that are in there. They're looking for CBD because it helps them with their back pain. They're looking for CBN because it's the only thing that helps them sleep. So that I've just been seeing more interesting and creative cannabinoid profiles in beverages and in edibles. I just think more people will get excited about those, and that's what I kind of see trending a little bit. And personally, I just love a good spiced beverage. Like I haven't seen somebody come out with a chai yet. Like if you could like come out with a chai,
dude.
I'd be all over it. All over it.
I know somebody's listening. Make that.
Wow, that does sound really good.
I'm sorry. Go
ahead. No. Go ahead.
No, you first.
All I was gonna say is we saw like so many seasonal type products. I saw a couple like Apple products come about, but chai is I think a big one that we're missing. Yeah.
Chai is popping in my house right now. That's right. But I was going to say that, when you think about the reasons a lot of people choose cannabis, it's the chronic pain, they have sleep problems, anxiety, or just stress, So I sleep very well. It's probably thanks to cannabis. So it's good to see that people are going to have increasing access to products that can help take the edge off and help them sleep better at night.
And be comfortable with speaking about that with their friends.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That they can say hey, I went into Dabbler Depot and I got some sleep gummies that helped me. Like that's
Yeah.
And the Grateful Dead sounds super great.
So how would you guys like encourage more people to get involved in the cannabis industry? And honestly, for people that haven't tried cannabis in a while, like how would you encourage those people to kind of get back into it?
So I'll talk about the business side, and I'll let you guys talk about the consumer side. I think if you're interested in starting up a cannabis business, look at what those license types are going to be. I mean, we're going to have a really unique license structure here in Minnesota. It's not like I'm just applying for a cannabis business license. I can do whatever. You really have to fit your business into the existing structure. So I'd highly recommend that you do that. But if you're someone who's just sort of wanting to maybe dabble, no pun intended, in the cannabis industry a little bit, maybe sort of get your toes wet and want to try making a cannabis product, there's a lot of brands out there that do something that's called white labeling. That's actually something we've talked about on the show before. And if you have an idea for a beverage, an idea for a product, an idea for something that you really want to see on the shelves, well, there are manufacturers that are making products that really are looking for people to partner with. So if you're someone that wants to be part of that future industry, I actually would recommend you might explore starting your business today, even if that edible might not be what you hope to do in the future, or maybe if that beverage isn't like your long-term goal. If you're interested in sort of, cutting your teeth on cannabis, you don't have to wait for those licenses to be on board. You can be doing that now. So really my encouragement to people is, yes, look at what those license types are. Think about what you want to do in the future, but don't ignore what you can be doing today.
Right. And I think from a consumer standpoint is really having those open conversations, right? We know that a lot of it is generational, where your grandmother or your Christian aunt may feel some type of way, or you know, smoking that devil's lettuce, as they call it, or something like that.
Yeah, while they're sipping whiskey.
Really having those open conversations and talking about the benefits. We know that people use it for various reasons. So I think that's very important. And also from an equity, just advocating for it. We saw in Tanner, we talked about an episode where there was a child and needed that, for them to, function on a day-to-day basis. So it's not just adults who just want to vibe out and get high and lay around on the sofa, which again is a stigma. People come from various backgrounds like myself. People say, well, you don't look like a smoker. Well, what am I supposed to look like? So I think it's just those open conversations about the benefits of it from a consumer standpoint. What about you, Marcus?
Well, I'd like to touch on the business and the consumer side. So there's never going to be as many licenses in the beginning. 10 years from now, there's not going to be this many opportunities. So if people really want to compete in the cannabis industry, they have to get started in the beginning. I mean, it's going to be tough. Like, we don't know yet until the OCM, Office of Cannabis Management, completes the rulemaking process how many licenses there will be. Like, at the Legacy Cup, there was 132 vendors. Not everybody's going to get a license.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see people who may have invested a lot of money that don't even get a license. So I would just encourage everybody you have to get ready now. I mean, there's already a lot of people who are ready. Mm-hmm. I mean, all these people that have products on the shelves, like, they have their infrastructure. A lot of them have their capital lined up. They have their teams organized. So if you want to have a fighting chance, like, you have to be ready when the application process opens.
And doing your research, Jen Riza, who is a friend of ours, she is a great resource if you want someone to look over your business idea, provide that legal expertise for you. I think it's very important to have a strategic plan, because it may be that just entry level, getting your feet wet. There's several ways that you can enter, not necessarily just a product, but a delivery service. I mean, you can translate skills. I have a marketing background. Right. So how do you translate that into tapping into the industry? So there's so many different ways on the business side that you can create an avenue and generate, revenue for yourself.
I also want to say this, as somebody who personally is doing business planning I'm going to go for a license. Like, when I think about prospective investors, I don't want anybody whose number one why is making money. Like,
right. Yeah.
No. Like, obviously a business needs to profit. That's the whole point. But, like, if your number one why is to make money, like, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, you need the passion, but of course you go into business to be independent and make the money.
Yeah, but, like, even coming from the legacy market, when we think about quality flower and all of that, like, a master grower told me, like, 90% of it's based on the quality of the genetics. 90% is based on the love that you have for it. Like, you're not going to produce good products if love is not an ingredient, right. And I mean, and you have to be able to pivot in this industry because things change so frequently. I mean, if you're not able to be fluid, you're not going to succeed.
Sign up for our newsletter. We keep you up to date and current on the latest in the industry.
Nice. Yeah, it's very interesting how like volatile this industry already is. It's so crazy. I talk to distributors and different vendors all the time of just this product was selling like hotcakes 1 month and then it dies completely the next month just because the trends change so much of what people are getting into. They'll see an ad on Instagram or their friend will be drinking something at an event and they'll come in and say, well, why don't you have this? And so we're even finding out things from our customers too, who are finding out about these new products that I've never even heard of that are coming to our door with them too. So it's really interesting just to see, over the last few months how everything has changed.
Mm-hmm. I remember right when sort of that July 1st date switched, it was really exciting. Sort of like every couple of days there'd be like a new brewery that was announcing a product, and then very quickly it was like, oh, there's a lot of THC products, and then very quickly it was like, oh yeah, we're not going to report on every single product that comes out anymore. We just can't. And it's exciting to sort of have a market that is, yes, still has a lot of growth to go, but frankly, that is so developed that we have such a variety of products to choose from pretzels to beverages to chocolates to so many things in between, trail mix, granola. Like it's really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny because like you said, as soon as July 1 hit, it was just like a absolute barrage of new product and also a lot of companies dedicating more of their resources to Minnesota. And Minnesota quickly became the largest market for THC or hemp-derived product for a lot of companies. Not only, I mean, obviously the people in Minnesota, but these out-of-state powers. But I think that one of the big things is like, as long as our local players can continue to innovate and find ways to be competitive, like our biggest thing is like, we want to see Minnesota businesses succeed. We want to see good people succeed. And like there are larger companies out there that people see as kind of the Coca-Cola beverage of this THC business, right? And while we want to have those products, we really, really are trying to ensure that we can have a representation of Minnesota and one like no other. We went from like 3 SKUs to 120 SKUs. Wow. And now it's pushing, 200? I don't know. Jordan takes all the pictures for him.
You guys have like a waiting list of people that just come
honestly, it's like a rotating cast of characters. I know like one of the big things that we try to do is we try to have our core products and our core lines of what do our customers want? And then we have kind of a rotating cast of characters where we take swings on some things. There are other situations where we'll have the entire team try it because we kind of have a horizontal structure when it comes to that. Like Will's the THC buyer and he does his job fantastically, right? But Will isn't always the guy that's looking for new products. So any member of our team is a good person to talk to when it comes to getting your stuff on the shelf. It's not like you have to butter up just Will. Love him to death.
I won't say no, but
So Will, all those Caribou gift cards that I gave you were for nothing? I thought, jeez, I thought I was buying shelf space.
That was really tone deaf. We have a coffee shop, but
Oh yeah, oh darn. Yeah, now it's sort of mean.
But yeah, like I mean, honestly, we don't really have a waiting list. It's more of like if your product can win at the point of sale and the story is compelling and we want to do good business with good people. Right. And we want to elevate local brands. If it's your first week in business, but you came out with something that's super cool, we want to see it. Like, honestly, like you can reach out to us on social media at Dabbler Depot THC. You can pop into the store, any one of them. I mean, if you go to our South Minneapolis store, it's kind of small, but there's always going to be somebody there who can at least get your product in front of us and we can try it. And, we love to see new cool stuff. And if your product's wacky and it's just something that hasn't been done before and it's unproven, still bring it in. Cause like, I want to see something new on the shelf that'll make people go, yeah, sure. Whatever. Let's try that. Let's see if this is for me. So, yeah.
And cannabis consumers, they want to see variety.
Yeah.
And a lot of these products are new to people. So there's going to be a lot of experimentation. So Yeah, the more variety in the beginning, I think. Though, how do you like educate consumers who are new to these products?
Honestly, that's something that I found was one of the biggest hurdles when I had first started, because working in like the craft beer space for a while, people know beer, people know alcohol. It's been around for a long time, but the main point of when customers come in has been educating about, because they'll see that it's Delta 9 THC. They'll go, I don't like that Delta stuff. And so just educating them about like what Delta 9 is, what Delta 10 and what Delta 8 is. They might have seen extra letters after different things explaining what like THCA and THCP, things that they might be seeing when they went into a lot of these smoke shops before a lot of these products were available. They're going into there and being like, I'll pick with the first thing I see on the shelf. And so being able to educate these people and help them feel more comfortable with buying these things, and not that it's like a seedy backroom deal. Right. That they can come in and we can talk to them about this bubbly little fruity beverage that we have that's going to make you feel a little funny. And so just being able to even just destigmatize it that way, that it doesn't have to be this big. You're not having a trip. You're not having this crazy experience every time. Just saying like, this is a low dose option that is just nice to drink while watching the football game.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
You can take your edibles and sit on the sidelines at your kid's soccer game, and nobody will know.
Oh no, my
Yeah.
Well, I just want to also add, like, I remember, I'll tell a quick anecdote. We went up north, and we stopped at this, like, smoked fish and cheese shop somewhere up there. And Madiba's mom started asking questions, and the woman said, I don't know. And it wasn't until this guy stepped in the back and started educating her that, like, they started selling a lot of products. Because if there's a competitive advantage if you have people behind the counter who can, like, inform the customer.
Absolutely.
You could go from making no sales to a lot of sales just by helping the consumer understand and like selling it with some enthusiasm, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the biggest part about educating consumers is, and I think, you know, you guys asked what set us apart when it came to the decision for the Legacy Cup, right? And it was a people's choice thing, but I think what kind of sets us apart is like all of our guys have a love for the plant, right? And they, I came from like a harm reduction background, so like I've been a huge advocate for harm reduction, and with THC, the biggest thing with any chemical is just understanding how it interacts with your body, right?
Yeah.
And there are some chemicals that are not for you, and
Right,
that's okay.
absolutely.
But you got to know your chemistry, and you know, when people ask me, you know, oh, is this gonna get me messed up? And it's like, well, that really depends. Or, you know, what do you like? And it's like, what I like might not be what works for you. And so everything from just your milligram dosage on THC all the way into, well, how are we going to tack on additional cannabinoids to help us get to where we want to go, right? People come in, they're looking for a gummy, and it's like, okay, well, tell me about the experience you're trying to have.
Right.
And then let's unpack that, and let's see what you've taken before, and let's try to curate that, right? If it's your first time, and I'm worried that you are going to take 3 gummies because you don't feel something, I'm going to give you something with a little bit higher CBD and tell you that's the right product for you. It might have 5 milligrams THC and 20 milligrams of CBD, because if you take 2 of them, that CBD is going to be the shut-off switch, and you're going to go night-night. You're not going to have a bad time off the gummies at Dabbler, right? But those Dabbler gummies got me, right? And I don't want people to have that experience coming through the door. I want them to be able to trust that, you know, we can help curate that experience for them, as long as, you know, our guys are asking the questions. And, you know, they are. I've been here every day for a long time. You know, I take a couple days off here and there, but I still come in and check on the shop just to make sure everybody's having a good time. But, you know, we love our regulars, and we love our new customers who, you know, may have had a Colorado gummy experience, or you know, they had a brownie one time and it was a little too much. And like a new product we just brought in, Mary and Jane's Sunny. So they're THC melts with Kana in them, and they're 1 milligram. And so they actually have a product that they launched. We just haven't gotten them in yet. We should have them in by the end of the week here, but it's the Dose Discovery Kit. And it's really for those people who had those experiences and think that maybe THC isn't for them, but they can try it in a controlled, metered fashion. The testing on it was really solid, and I thought that, you know, the women entrepreneurs that were backing it, like I love it. I love everything about that because it can help destigmatize this, and it can help bring this product to people who traditionally wouldn't have it. It's for the mom who wants to still be present when playing with their child, right? But taking a gummy might not be the thing that they think they should do, right? And so, yeah, being able to find your dose, find the cannabinoids that work for you, and finding that blend. And then once you got it, right? The only thing we got to worry about is maybe your tolerance. But, you know, we can always work on that. We got adult use coming down the road.
Yeah, those 1 milligram ones are really interesting. I remember buying like a pack of the Granny's pretzels a few months back, which are also like those 1 milligram for pretzel, and thinking like, all right, this is cool. Like, they taste great, but I got to eat the entire bag in one sitting to sort of get what I'm looking for as a consumer.
Right.
Like, no one's going to buy this. And then I've since met so many people that are like, nah, 3 milligrams is where it's at for me. Or like, I really like that 5 milligram. That's sort of where I prefer. And eating a couple of pretzels or having a couple sort of whatever the dose serving is, like, I think that's just so cool for new consumers to the cannabis industry.
Oh, yeah. And I would even say for people that think that these like lower dose beverages or edibles like won't do anything to them, if they've never had a beverage with THC before, their body has never processed it that way.
Absolutely.
And so there are some people that are everyday smokers, but the beverages, they can only do like 5 milligrams.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
Absolutely.
And so it's absolutely crazy to just see how some
guy right
people,
here.
it's wild.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's very, very cool to just see how it affects everybody a little bit differently. CBN could make you wired. It's all these different things that could just do the exact opposite of what you think it will. And so I think like just experimenting and coming into it with like a place of fun and a place of discovery, I think is the right mindset to have, because you want to be able to explore and find out like what does work for you and what might not work for you. And so knowing what's not good and knowing what is good is just another way of self-discovery.
Yeah, learning the dose is so critical because
Oh my gosh, yeah.
if you like, I'm in the psychedelic space too, and I'm all about like harm reduction or risk reduction. So we often say you can always take more,
Classic.
but you can't take less.
Oh, yeah.
So start slow.
Yeah, you didn't.
Give it some
Oh,
time.
yeah. You can add more cars onto the train, but once it's left the station,
You don't want to be
Sound check,
hunched over your sofa thinking, when is this going to end?
Forever? Is this forever?
yeah.
Because I took 25 milligrams of, and it was a long night. It's a long night.
Oh, what?
Well, I think the Minnesota Department of made a stop selling the infused sugar,
Oh,
but it was very effective.
Oh, it's like the THCP that was being sold in the marketplace. I was at I think it was a gas station that was selling THC stuff. And I watched an old lady come in and she's like, oh, this is 3 milligrams. Great. It's, the 5 is usually too much for me. And it was a THCP gummy. And I tried to intervene, and she's like, no, it's fine. I was like, ma'am, please just take like a quarter of that. Because, and I guarantee, because the onset for that can vary, but usually it's about a 2-hour onset. And that effect lasts a very long time. And if somebody takes like one of those and it's like, oh, in an hour, nothing happens, they take another one, they're going to have a bad time.
And that's not the point. It's supposed to be pleasant.
yeah.
I mean, genuinely, that was my first experience with THCP. Is I went into a head shop before everything was available, and my wife and I were going up to the counter, and the guy said to us, "This one hits the hardest," and so that's the one that we bought, and he didn't tell us what dose things should be, shouldn't tell like how many you should take. So we each took one, and like I genuinely, my wife and I like had an experience, I think, for like 12 hours.
God.
It was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. We had to work the next day.
Hey, that's why this is one thing I would say for consumers. Sourcing matters.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Sourcing matters. Like you should learn which of these brands have enough integrity to produce products with good ingredients, and shop from retailers that can give you some basic education about the products that you're consuming. Like, don't take a chance, you know. I would never buy from certain stores. I just wouldn't. And once you learn which are the best like brands out there that are right for you as an individual, like support those companies.
Well, here's the thing: you wouldn't buy from just any dealer, right?
No.
Right. You go to your guy. And
it's
Well,
clean.
you said the gas
treated
station is
exactly
like
the same.
buying sushi from the gas station.
That sounds like a bad idea.
Well, and one thing that people have here that literally is at no other store in the entire state of Minnesota is you can buy your cannabis products and walk by this window and watch us live record the Northern Lights podcast.
Yes.
It's a pretty cool thing here at the
absolutely.
Dabbler Depot. So.
Yeah, bring your signs. Bring your signs.
Yeah. You can hold them up. We'll turn the camera around like on the Today Show. It'll be great. Yeah.
So, something from like a retailer perspective, what do you guys look for? I know you guys probably consume quite a bit of flower, but when it comes to beverage and edible product, what are you guys looking for chemically? What are you guys looking for flavor wise? And what does that branding look like? And it doesn't have to be like super specific, but like what compels you guys to buy a THC product, having tasted quite a bit?
When looking for products to try on the show, we try to feature newer products. So I think if I'm going into a store for the podcast, I have the mindset of like, what's the newest thing? But if I'm going in to just like have something for at home, it's really looking for like, what is that flavor that I'm looking for? Like, I think what's so cool about some of the edibles that we have here is, you'd walk into, I keep shitting on Colorado, so I apologize, but you'd walk into a dispensary there and it was like, do you want the gummy or do you want the chocolate bar? And that was it. They sometimes had the beverage, and that was sort of the cap. And I think what's cool is you come here and, we've been limited in what we've been able to do, but we've created such an industry in those limits of some of the most unique edibles that, like, when I came to your guys' Halloween party, I was walking around and being like, wow, I never thought of that being an edible before, but that sounds cool. Like freeze-dried pieces of fruit. Like, that sounds great. Granola. Wow, I love that. Like, I think what's been so cool as a consumer is just seeing what are some of those unique sort of niche products that people are finding and making.
I think for me, flavor is always going to be like the number one factor. But I think similar to how you described it, like if a brand has a good story, if the branding is compelling, it's going to make me curious. But the only way they're going to keep me is if the flavor is right. I mean, like the blueberry poblano, that flavor is compelling. I want to taste that. And like if there's a good design in terms of the, the can or the bag, that's going to make me curious.
Yeah, what are your
I
thoughts?
agree. Packaging is always, obviously, the marketing. I always look at the packaging, but then flavor, too, is always big. But I always like the research because, like you said, integrity. Like, how are they sourcing? What is their mantra and, motto, and what do they really stand for? Are they really for equitable type of processes when they're creating a product or, so that's what I really look. But I'm a fan of flour, too, so I don't really get into, like, the...
Yeah. I'm a flower man and concentrates.
Yeah,
which we can't buy anywhere.
Me too, but I do love edible. And one thing that really I think is like the biggest turnoff for me when I'm looking at a product and like I'm considering buying it is looking at it and going like, oh, all the information is on the QR code and scanning that QR code, and then it like doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Or you're like looking at a product and I'm like, wow, I've never heard of this before. Like, I wonder who made this. And you're like looking all over at the can and you're like, I still don't know who made this. Like, I think. What I really look for is products that taste good, products that are delicious, products that are unique, but also products that are compliant. Right. Like, we're sort of at a part of the industry where if you're coming to a store like Dabbler Depot, you don't really have to worry about that as much. But, if you're walking into a small tobacco shop and really no disrespect meant towards them, like, the rules have changed a lot. Like, I get sometimes it's hard to keep up with things sometimes, but it's terrible when it's a product that looks great, sounds great, and just, unfortunately, isn't compliant.
Yeah, that's been one of the things as well. So, more so when it was more like the Wild West, when everybody was saying, I was kind of educating some brands on some of the, hey, I didn't see the QR code on there, or hey, there's no expiration on here. So just letting some brands know that, just because now it's a little bit more laid out, but as of before, when it was just kind of an open playing field, there were some people who went exactly the way they went for beer, that they're like, well, I just have to say how much is in it and say where it's from, and that's it. And so just figuring out what you all need for like nutrition facts and everything as well, of knowing all the ingredients that are in this in case you have like an allergic reaction to something. Like there are so many things that are just so important to make sure you're putting on those labels.
I mean, one thing that I like, even when I shop for beer, I like craft beer. Like, no offense, but I'm never going to buy Coors or Michelob or Busch.
Yeah.
No
I
offense.
don't like beer in general.
Jab and the uppercut. But so I like craft quality products. And like, even as we were lobbying to get this legal, like, we were telling legislators, we don't want big marijuana. We don't. So, like, I'm excited to see the Minnesota market.
Yeah.
The cream that will rise to the top.
So to wrap that point up, chemically, for hemp derived product, what would urge you guys to try something? What is a cannabinoid blend that works best for you?
So I hate to jump on the bandwagon, but Steve Eggenman, a friend of mine, really introduced me to that CBG world. It's one of those things that I had heard about. I'd seen products, but never really tried myself. And I think, I found different ways to implement that in my life. And seeing a product that has CBG in it, it definitely sort of piques my interest. It's like, oh, maybe this isn't just a product that I have to take before bedtime. Maybe this is something that, I personally feel like in my experience, it really helps me when I'm, trying to write a book or trying to craft out some stuff, is I can sit down, really focus a bit better. That's my own personal experience, but when I see CBG in a can, it does really make me more interested in it, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the rising stars of the cannabinoids.
And what about you guys? I mean, anything that you see that makes you want to try something new, or?
No, I don't know, but what now I think I have to say is, like, you mentioned the point about the pseudoscience of the categorization of indica and hybrid. Like, I have given up. Like, if people want to, like, it's real. I can tell the difference. Sativas hit me this way. I'm like, okay. But I need producers that are honest, and retailers that are honest. Like, don't lie to me.
Yeah, I think it's been exciting, going back to 2019, 2020, where we're seeing some of the hemp products come about. Maybe some of the first hemp edibles that were advertised as like a very shadowy CBD plus. But they weren't telling you exactly what other cannabinoids in it. Yeah, it was probably like 6 milligrams of THC, but whatever, it's CBD plus. And I think what's been cool today is, each brand does their stuff a little bit differently, but being able to really figure out, hey, I want to try a product that's a little bit higher in CBD, or maybe I want to try something that has CBN, and really being able to have those choices, I think is pretty cool.
Can I say another thing that I've noticed among consumers is that, people that have a lot of trauma, a lot of them want the heavier stuff, or people that, but a lot of people whose lives are not as hard, they want more like the so-called sativa-ish type of feeling.
I feel like
no
you're throwing
offense,
shots at
to
me.
anybody. No, it's not personal.
But yeah, like the whole. I know what you're kind of talking about when it comes to typically your blue collar workers generally want more of that narcotic effect. That that's what they're seeking, right? Because they're trying to deal with pain, and then you've got Silicon Valley people who they want this thing to just be buzzing. They want a match to be lit in their brain, and they're looking for those like thin-bladed varietals, the things that they would be normally getting from what we would call a sativa, right? But generally, I think a lot of people are seeking that. They're looking for the chemical combination that gets them there. They're not looking for the terpenes that get them there. And terpenes have their uses, right? But when it comes to the edible and beverage market, that's one thing that still is yet to be seen. I would be far more focused on figuring out, do I need more CBD? Am I trying to get that that pain relieving effect, or am I trying to be alert and get stuff done? Well, we can look at what chemicals we need to do there. It could be CBG. We could add L-theanine to the gummy, right? And so I thought it's really funny that you've that's a point that's been belabored for you, that people who've had it rough, right, generally are looking for what we would consider to be an indica, and vice versa, right? So that was super cool.
So I think it's important to respect everyone's perspective and their unique relationship with cannabis. Yeah. So it's not like I want to shame people for saying, oh, I'm an indica person or I'm a sativa person. But like part of the education process for the consumers is to encourage them to be more self-aware. Like we talked about listening to your body before the show started filming. And like a lot of times if people think that an outcome is just based on the product, a lot of times it's based on how you're feeling before you took the product.
Don't pigeonhole yourself. That's the main thing. Don't say it's going to be one thing. Don't think that you're only going to have this one experience from this one thing. Have an open mind.
That part, mindset. If your mind is closed, you're kind of robbing yourself of the possibilities for good outcomes.
So I know we talked about smoking flower a little bit. We like to have this conversation at work sometimes. It's just it's something that you do. What is your guys' ideal smoke circle? Like who's in it? Fictional, real people. Like who would you pick?
I'll talk Rihanna because she's a boss, my girl. Fly.
We love
Riri. And
Riri.
again, breaking down the stigmas like us. You don't typically look like someone who would indulge in it. Snoop, of course. And Willie Nelson, because he's like the G, the OG, right. And I think it would be great to hear some of his stories. He's had an amazing life. So,
but Snoop's off the smoke, so now we need one more from you.
No, he is not off the smoke. It was a product that he was promoting.
Oh no,
it was a smokeless. No, I can't even believe that people thought that he was. He said,
it was
I'm
an
off
ad
the smoke. It was an ad
terrible.
for one of those smokeless pits.
Well, one more because I don't watch the news.
Stay up to date, but yeah.
Well, I mean, my list probably wouldn't include any celebrities, but if I had to go with celebrities, I would like to smoke with Bob Marley. There's people that are coming in my mind that they probably don't even smoke, but I would like to smoke with them.
Oh yeah.
Oh, if that was the case, it would be like Oprah or someone like that. She used to smoke. Oh.
Oh yeah.
This might sound crazy, but I'd like to smoke with Steve Biko. Yeah. I mean, I like smoking with these guys.
Yeah.
I'd like to smoke with y'all. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I was wondering, can we actually dab in the Dabbler Depot? But probably not. Who the hell cares? Okay.
All right. There we go.
Stop you.
There we
I
go.
was like, a Puffco right here would be nice.
Oh, if only we could magically make one appear from right behind the table.
Only one in the trunk.
There's even closer in the trunk, maybe. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I think sort of wrapping this out, three people that I would really love to smoke with, sort of names that people might not have heard of, but that I think people should hear of. The first one is Mark Kurzman. Have you heard that name? Oh, probably not. So here's why. Mark Kurzman is the guy who started Minnesota Normal back in the 1970s.
Oh.
He was a professor at the University of Minnesota. He was really trying to look at how college students was using cannabis. He also came from a legal background, and he was the person that really fought and got decriminalization here. I mean, there were quotes from lawmakers at the time that said, yeah, it's because of this professor at the U of M that we passed this. And there were, of course, many, many more people along the way. I don't mean to limit it to just one guy, but really that's someone who I think has a really unique perspective on Minnesota history. Someone you definitely do know, Oliver Steinberg. He's another person I'd love to have in my circle. Oh yeah, we've actually smoked with him many times. But one reason is he sort of then picked up that torch and continued it on. Mark is currently living in Florida, no longer in the Minnesota cannabis scene. Definitely did his work, but then Oliver sort of picked it up and fought for decades onward. I mean, I'm sure people listening to this have heard that name if you've been even remotely involved in the activism side. He's someone that I think has a lot of stories to tell and a really unique perspective on what the future cannabis industry look like. I mean, no holding shots. We disagree with him on
Well,
some
I'm
things.
gonna fire some shots.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's someone that I'd love to have. And then just to round it out, this guy right here is who I think would fit. If you have those three people in a circle, you can hear the entirety of Minnesota activism around cannabis from 1970 all the way through to today. And I think having that narrative, having that story all in one circle, I'd be passing the joint as much as I can and hoping that they're holding it, telling a story, because I wouldn't be able to stop listening.
Can I give more shout outs? I mean, I've smoked with these people or dabbed with them, but Dr. Dabs, Clement Dabney.
Yes. Shout out to
Mason
Dr.
Alt, John Barty III, he's not here. Representative Jess Hansen. I'd like to smoke with Ryan Winkler, because I don't think he's ever smoked, and he really should.
Especially as the owner of a cannabis brand here in
You guys
Minnesota.
pick people that you already smoke with.
And I think Anthony Newby, I'm calling you out. You need to smoke a joint with me on camera. Actually, I don't believe in peer pressuring too much, but
Can I turn it back on you guys?
Zach Robinson should smoke with me.
Uh-oh.
Representative Stevenson.
So you guys had this conversation here. Who are some of those names that you sort of brought up as like, oh yeah, of course that's a no-brainer. That's someone I would add to that sesh.
Oh, let's see. I think for myself, should we make it themed? I think I wanna have a little theme here. I would like to have Clem has handed me a joint before, but I've actually never smoked with him, so that'd be super cool. Gosh, who else? I mean, there's a lot of names. I might need to take a pause on that and give it over to Will. I'll let Will go.
Yeah, that was hard.
Yeah, I feel like one of my go-tos has always been Seth Rogen. That's just like a classic.
Seth.
Yeah.
And I also just feel like he seems like a very down-to-earth dude that just you would love to smoke with. Like, you just look at him and you're like, wow, that guy's been around a joint.
And he's not going to pull out any huff.
No.
And he's really advocated for like federal legalization.
Oh my
so
gosh,
he's been very outspoken about it.
I want to smoke with Steve D'Angelo.
You guys just keep
Absolutely. He'd be an interesting one to smoke with for sure.
Yeah.
Another person who
He
has
said
such a
3 people.
unique perspective on cannabis legalization, not here in Minnesota, but sort of going back to like some of those OGs of medical and like, I mean, they built the
Dennis
bricks of what our
Perron.
industry is
Oh my
today,
gosh,
for
So
sure.
I want to smoke with Brownie Mary. I know she's
Yeah.
passed, but
Brownie Mary
that
is,
would be good.
and she's someone that actually lived in Minnesota. I mean, she likely smoked a lot of cannabis in Minnesota. Not calling her out, but likely. I mean, probably consumed a decent amount of cannabis here in Minnesota.
I mean, she made the brownie. She smoked.
Yeah, she made the brownies.
I think somebody I think I got it. I want Clem out here. We can do it in the parking lot. It's fine. We'll have Clem.
Yeah.
I would like to see party foul. I'd like to see Kat Franklin. Actually, I think she's a wealth of knowledge, and I'd love to pick her brain. I ran into her a couple weeks ago, but yeah. And I think the final one would be, I'd actually kind of like to see Sean Weber smoke a joint. Because
He looks like he needs to smoke.
he looks like he's always working, and I'd love to see him light up and take a load off, because I see him at events and he's always working so hard and he's not working with everybody. But that would be my like local like THC entrepreneur squad that I'd like to have a session with.
Well, and I got to give Sean a shout out, because I might have, I don't want to put him on blast, I might have smoked a joint with him before, because he actually gave me my first paid job here in the Minnesota industry.
No way.
Way long time ago during the COVID days, I would drive 2.5 hours south to Morgan, Minnesota, spend hours trimming cannabis and listening to a lot of Kids Bop with his kids running around. It was a pretty fun time.
That kid's Bob.
I smoked with a lot more people before COVID, but COVID gave me an excuse to say I don't share joints.
Yeah.
Speaking of sharing joints, we're here at the Dabbler Depot. You said the Puffco. It sort of magically appeared.
I mean, we usually get high when we do these product reviews.
Would you guys like to join with our
Do we need to go outside?
sesh?
Sure.
We
While
don't
you
have our
guys are
three
heating it
people
up,
yet.
one of the biggest things and kind of the reason that Dabbler Depot is even here is the beer dabbler, and so we got our winter beer dabbler coming up here February 24th. It'll be from 3 to 6 p.m. at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds at the Midway here in St. Paul. We're gonna have over 200 breweries represented, 20 food trucks. Always have live entertainment. Last year we had fire and snowcross, but this year is to be decided. Well, to be revealed. But we are the biggest beer festival in the Midwest, and you can get more tickets and info at beerdabbler.com, or you can come visit us here in the store. And we've had some THC company representation there before. The State Fair hasn't normally been the place for THC product to be sampled, but hopefully we can change that. So.
Awesome.
I love that. That sounds like a great time.
Somebody's got to
sounds fun.
facilitate that, though, when they open up the State Fair. Somebody's got to do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's something that last year I think would have been really nice because I don't think there was really a throttle on what was going through those gates because I was out there. We had a booth out at the State Fair and it was crazy. I mean, everybody was posted up outside, but yeah, it'd be nice to see some brands be incorporated responsibly into that, and I think it'd be great.
Love that. Well, it sounds like a great time. You'll definitely find us there. That's for sure.
I mean, if it's not public, but are there going to be some Dabbler cannabis festivals?
I mean, we would love to. It's something that our team has talked about, and actually a little bit more as of recently. Specific details aren't quite there yet, but we have the tools. We're an events company, and we would love to be able to facilitate that. Legacy Cup is its own thing, and this, we just need more festivals in Minnesota to celebrate and also to help kind of spread the message and elevate more brands and more people in the space who are, activists or who are educators. That would be incredible. Just having another way for people to talk about their ideas and share their ideas. And I think this whole industry gets taken a lot more seriously when you see those large scale events, when you see all of those people who are passionate about something.
Right.
For sure.
And that's something that we saw happen with craft beer in Minnesota and the Beer Dabbler. So I think it can happen for cannabis too. I think craft cannabis in Minnesota has a home. And I think we can have the festivals and things like that to facilitate.
So you're saying watch your social media channels? That's what we should be doing?
You should probably follow us at Dabbler Depot THC.
Sweet. Awesome. Definitely encourage people to do that. Stay up to date.
Oh,
Are you gonna?
so you double click this thing and it'll heat up for like 20 seconds and it'll vibrate when it's ready. With what?
It vibrated.
So then when it vibrates again, then you're good to go.
Yeah.
And should we give a shout out to a local brand? The rosin today comes from Heady Boys Rosin Cooperative.
Heady
a local
Boys.
company. So
In the building.
not something you can buy legally, but maybe come legalization. Then you're good.
Probably.
What are your guys? So obviously you have the Puffco. What are your guys' favorite products? I know you have a Stores and Bickle.
As far as like accessories.
Yeah, accessories like smokable accessories.
Yeah, no, I gotta give a plug to Stores and Bickle. They are honestly some of the best products that I've personally ever used. I don't want to give any crap to a different flower vaporizer, so I'm not gonna say the name. It might, it rhymes with snacks or something, but it's like a tiny little box. You hit it through, and it produced some vapor. It was fine. It got me stoned. It was great. But when I tried the Volcano for the first time, when I tried the Mighty for the first time, night and day difference. So if it comes to concentrates, generally the Puffco is the way to go. But I tried some on the Volcano for the first time. It really did great as well. So I would say any of the electronic devices that are more on that vaporization side and less on the smoking side, it's really what I've been hitting recently. What about you?
Well, I was going to say, you can't beat a mid-sized bong.
All right.
I mean, as a smoker, I just think smoking is the most manageable way. And yeah, like I've been smoking joints and stuff for years, but at this point, I don't want to taste the paper when I smoke. I want a clean draw. And with the water filtration, it has a slight cooling effect too. So the water bong. I go to for all my glass to Legacy Glassworks. Shout out to them.
Well, I mean, guys, truly, thank you so much for having us out today. Like, it was so great chatting, hearing a little bit about your background, hearing a little bit about what you're looking forward to, but also for like really the first time being able to have the microphone turned on us and being able to chat a little bit about the industry.
Yeah, this has been
It's
super
gonna get
fun.
better and better.
Oh yeah, we've just got so much upcoming, and we really appreciate being able to be out here. So thanks again for having us.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we love this space and we love your energy. Thank you.
Transform your home into a cannabis processing hub with the ultimate guide from the Minnesota Cannabis College. Introducing Processing Cannabis at Home in Minnesota, a beginner's guide. Priced at just $15, this comprehensive guidebook demystifies the art of cannabis processing. Dive into the science of cannabinoids and terpenes while learning safe, legal, and effective processing techniques that you can use right at home. Authored by experts, it's packed with step-by-step instructions and practical tips for beginners and experienced processors alike. Join a community of enthusiasts and gain insight through real-world case studies. It's not just a guide, it's your gateway to the Minnesota cannabis community. Order now at mncannabiscollege.org/shop. Start your journey into cannabis processing today. mncannabiscollege.org/shop. Wow, we've had some really great instructors in the past. We've had some really great like speakeasy hosts. We've had some really great gift bags. And if people enjoyed that, they probably should come on back for our spring semester. They might get some similar faces, but also a whole slew of brand new faces as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you might be able to guess who's going to help us cure cannabis correctly, but I don't know if they know who's coming for the science of super soil.
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of people might have an idea, but I'm excited to announce it.
Mm-hmm.
Today? No, not today.
Not today.
On
Not
the
today.
edge of my stool.
Yeah. Well, so we've been talking a little bit about some of the upcoming classes. Should we fill them in on what it is we've actually got upcoming this semester? So we're really, really excited to announce that we've got some big classes upcoming. But before I do that, I actually want to recap the last class that we had, only because I want to keep you on the edge of your seat. It was so much fun. So we've done a lot of really awesome grow classes. We've partnered with people to teach people about super soil. We've partnered to teach about cloning. You know, I've had some really great experiences learning about drying and curing. I've personally learned a lot. But Sunday, that was one of my favorites. Concentrating on concentrates, an entire evening focusing just on that concentrate side of the market. All solventless, because that's what we can do here in Minnesota, but really helping to prepare home growers for how do you make your concentrates? How do you fill vape carts? How do you make edibles? It was a hit.
Pressing grass.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's cool is we actually all were there. I mean, we all got to see the rosin lab filled, packed to the brim with people, but also with rosin presses.
And we have video.
Oh, yeah. In fact, should we cut some of that video in right here?
Yeah, right after I mentioned, Shana just showed her phone, and it's 7:10.
Marcus, did you know that when you started taking a dab?
Happy 7:10,
Happy
Marcus.
7:10. Wow.
Jumping Jehoshaphat.
Yeah, truly the concentrate time, truly synchronicity, as we say in the cannabis industry. Wow, yeah, that's perfect. But it was so cool. I mean, like, Steve, when you started telling me about this event coming together, some of the people you were telling me, hey, they're going to come out and help us teach this class, I I didn't really believe you. I mean, it was like some of the people that are the top tier concentrate makers here in Minnesota today.
All of Minnesota.
Yeah, all of Minnesota. I mean,
Oh.
perhaps in the Midwest. I mean, like people here are producing such high quality products with the restraints of hemp prohibition. I mean, like truly some high quality stuff.
I hope that it inspires any top tier solventless extractors to come out to the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I've been involved in a lot of cannabis events, and that was one of the most spectacular events.
Yes.
Just because,
Yeah.
I mean, it was hands-on education. Like it was such a community-spirited event. I mean, it was so heartfelt and authentic, like the love that these producers have for their products, and the love that they have for our community in terms of educating us. So we're very fortunate. And I'm very proud of the Minnesota Cannabis College because it's that rare entity in the cannabis space that nobody hates.
Absolutely.
Like that's almost unheard of.
Well, and what I think is so cool about the concentrate class specifically is, you know, sort of once you learn the 101 of growing, like you don't need to come back to a boot camp class. Like you're going to get information that's sort of is similar to what you know. But what was cool about that concentrate class is, yeah, there were people that were learning for the first time, but there were also people that are already making concentrates that came with jars at maximum 8 grams, of course, but that was some really, really good stuff grown, made here in Minnesota. It's one of those events that like you can keep coming back to because you're going to be meeting new people pressing.
Dude, the
you're going to be seeing new
alone.
products.
Yes, I was about to say networking.
Yeah,
You know, I always say your network is your network.
absolutely.
I mean, I was literally thinking last night, like, God, we are the hub.
We are the
Like
plug.
everybody who's a good actor in this industry is fucking with us.
Yeah.
And
Plug.
it's such a blessing, you know? That means you got all these entrepreneurs who they're doing this for the right reason and they want to do it the right way.
Because we're
So we have
empowering
such a great
individuals.
opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely,
Building
Steve.
equity.
Well, and I think like Marcus, your point is so spot on. Like the people that we're working with, like thinking through who was at that Sunday class. Like we had John from Minnesota Solventless.
Wabasha, Minnesota.
Yeah, talk through that entire bubble hash side of it. Talk about like everything you would do prior to pressing rosin. We had Stefan with Cornell Urban Agriculture.
Minneapolis proper.
Yep, absolutely. Come on up. Teach
Northeast.
people all about that pressing side. Teach people all about what they need to know to get that indoor flower into a jar, into oil. And then rounding it out, we had Casey, Minnesota MN grown CBD.
Cambridge, Minnesota. He drove over an hour.
Yeah, and he came with knowledge that I had never known before about taking outdoor product and turning it into some of the most fire oil that I had seen here in Minnesota. Like truly, it was like a rock star of classes.
And I mean, people drove. Angela, that Stoder mom, drove over 2 hours. Like
We
No,
met
she
her.
drove 3
Yeah.
hours.
3 hours.
She sat at our table.
John drove over 2 hours. Shout out. I mean, Wabasha's in over an hour and a half. So
Yeah.
this
We've
is
seen
there's-
people drive like 4.5 hours to come to cannabis events, you know, throughout this journey.
There's so much care. People take so much care in what they're making.
Yeah.
And that's what's really beautiful about it.
100%. Because you can, take the 4, 5, 6 hour drive to Michigan, to Illinois. I mean, I'm sure people have done it before. Or you can take that 4, 5, 6 hour drive to one of our pressing classes, learn what you need to know, and then go home, and now you don't have to make that drive anymore. Now you know what you do. But now you want to make that drive to go back to the classes, to show off your oil, to say, hey guys, look, I was learning a couple months ago, and now here I am, and smell this. Like that's such a cool experience. So,
But to bring it back to Marcus, like
Yeah.
there's no reason why in 10 years the Minnesota Cannabis College couldn't have satellite locations.
I mean, the only limit is our imagination.
yeah, absolutely.
Imagination,
so,
satellite
Like
locations.
such an incredible class, and then the night kept going on. Like it sounds like we should be done, but really there was more. So we've got this giant book behind me because not only was Sunday night a pressing class focusing on that concentrate side, but also it was a night to say thank you to every single person that helped to make our mission possible. I mean, thinking over some of the numbers, like we've had more than 200 students come to our in-person events. We've had more than 300 students take online classes. We've had more than 96,000 people visit our website just this year alone. Like the amount of interest and passion that there is going into this, truly we could not do it without
Northern
every
Lights
single person
Podcast.
watching and subscribing and all of that.
Listen, we'd be remiss to not give you your flowers, as they say. You're our education director. The Minnesota Cannabis College wouldn't be anything without all of your efforts. And you've done all this for free. In fact, you've spent money doing this. I mean, I remember me and Tanner were sitting at this bench over on by Worth Beach.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, let's do this. And we did it. And we've done it with no money. And we've already got so much credibility this year alone. I mean, we've been featured on the
Star Tribune.
all the major news networks. NPR, Star Tribune quotes our data.
WCCO.
Like we have, I mean, with no money, we have the number one media. We're the number one media source for cannabis information. And we are opposed to misinformation. So
Breaking news.
like
always.
you get credit for information. I've been listening to people speculate and try to act like they're experts. There's even lawyers out here charging people and lying to their clients about what's going to happen when we don't know the rulemaking process yet. But so we provide the best information, and without your leadership, we wouldn't be here, man.
Well, thank you.
I'm so proud of you. I met you in like 2018. Dude.
Yeah.
I mean, cannabis. This is one of our legends.
The latest legend.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, honestly, it's such a dream come true, being able to go out and connect with people. And Marcus, I think the point that you said was so great. Like, this is something that we've done really without a bunch of money. Like, when people come to our classes, they know that they're able to get a high quality experience. They know they're able to get education, and they know they're not paying like $300 to learn how to grow.
It's accessible.
Yeah.
And that's equitable. If it's not accessible, it's not equitable.
Yeah, it's part of what we do as a nonprofit. We pay the bills, we get the education out, and then we keep going with our mission because that's what we're here for.
So we got to shout out everybody who's collaborated with us today. I mean, we can't list them all right now, but there's so many people that are making Minnesota's cannabis space such a wonderful place.
Yeah, we're going to have a wrap-up episode in the future talking about some of the big things that we did this year, sort of highlighting some of those events. And definitely, I mean, that is going to be like a who's who of naming some of the people in the industry because we've just been supported by so many incredible people.
Yeah. I mean,
really great.
it's so authentic. So, yeah.
So should we get to talking about some of the classes we got upcoming? So this event, I mean, it was such a great time, but we're not stopping there. We're not stopping with just the piñatas. We're not stopping with just, a couple of classes. We're moving forward. And if you didn't get a chance to catch those classes, no worries. We've got a number coming up for our first semester upcoming in the spring. Steve, do you want to go and hold up that poster of the ones that we got upcoming?
Yeah.
Tanner did.
It's probably backwards knowing me, but.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That's perfect. That's perfect. So you can see on there, we've got a whole bunch of classes upcoming over the next couple of months. Everything that you need to know to be a grower. Let's say you've never grown before. We've got classes for you. Let's say maybe you've grown a couple times. You got a few grows under your belt. We got classes for you. Let's say you've been growing for a few years. You want to network with people. You want to learn a couple tricks. You really want to dig in. We've got classes for you. Yeah, it's there's an app for that. There's a class for that. That's what we're here for. We're really trying to provide that education. So we encourage everyone to go check that out. You can go right now to mncannabiscollege.org/classes. mncannabiscollege.org/bundle is really where I'd send you though, because you can come to one of these classes. They're a great time if you want to just dip your toes in. I'd encourage you to check it out. But what's cool is because we've got these 4 classes upcoming, we really can give you that high quality education for actually an even cheaper price than we already do.
Less than an ounce.
Yeah, for real. Less than an ounce to be able to grow your own ounces, plural. So mncannabiscollege.org/bundle. But let's really get into each of these classes because each month we've got a new feature, a new topic that we're digging into. Do you guys want to hear about some of the ones we got upcoming?
I want to hear all about it.
All right. So January, it's the start of the year. We really want to help people get started with their grows. Maybe you're someone who's been growing for a while and you're looking for what's that next seed I'm going to put in the soil. Maybe you're someone who's thinking, I've heard the word clone a lot, but I don't really know what that means. Maybe you're someone that's just thinking, I've put seeds inside of a paper towel before, and God, they sort of got woven in, and that just didn't really work out. Like, what do I do?
Like,
Well,
didn't
this
even
is
germinate.
this is the class. It's all about getting started. All about really how do you get started, not just as like a beginner grower, but looking at that first couple of days of a grow. You know, we get questions all the time, like, how much light should I give my plant? Well, we're going to talk about that. Like, what kind of nutrients do I give my plant? What kind of soil do I use? Like, we think of those first couple of days as really easy, but there's so many factors that go in that, I mean, we all have known people that have grown before that got that seed to germinate. We're so excited. And then a week later, we're calling you saying, it's dead. And it's a bummer. So we put this class together January 15th, middle of January. We're really going to give you everything you need to know to be able to take your seed, to take your clone, to really get started as a grower.
You're also going to be able to buy some pretty high quality seeds at this event.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's saying it nicely.
Yeah, if we taught this class, you know, a year and a half ago, we wouldn't legally be able to sell Minnesota cannabis genetics. But, I mean, we're getting to the point now where we've got businesses operating here in the state, Minnesota-focused businesses, that you can go and buy seeds from, like, today. You can't legally buy the clones yet, but the seeds you can get in a store. I mean, like Dabbler Depot right around the corner. They've got seeds you can buy. But we're going to be talking through some of those considerations when buying seeds.
Yeah, and you know, starting in February, we're improving where we found areas to improve. The super soil class, despite the pizza, was a little bit much to take on.
Yeah,
it got a little messy. It wasn't just the pizza that was late. It was hard to get all the bags and the nutrients and all the stuff for super soil. So we've got a better option now.
Oh yeah,
we've got a brand that actually makes their own living soil. And, that's just part of it. But we're going to be able to delve into the critical role of soil in cannabis cultivation and discover how to create the perfect growing environment for your plants.
Yeah. Shana, do you know what super soil is? Have you heard that term before?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Oh, well, I'd love to, but unfortunately, I'll have to come to the class on February 19th to learn a little bit more about the science behind soil. So come and check it out. It's really, really cool because maybe you've gotten your seeds started. It's sort of putting out those leaves. You're thinking, hey, I started January 15th. I'm now getting to like February 19th, probably when you want to be transplanting that plant to some really, really highly packed soil. Come on down. You can learn about that. But what's cool about February, Steve, you talked about one class. Before I move on to March, we've actually got a second class in February.
I think there's at least one more class in February.
Oh, yeah. There might be more. But at least what we can talk about today is, we did an event a couple months back, a boot camp, looking at you're a grower, you really want to get started, but you don't really know how to get started.
Right.
And you're thinking, hey, I don't really want to sit in a Zoom class for 4 weeks. Or like, hey, I don't really want to wait until April to really know everything I need to know. Let's say you just want a boot camp of sorts to get you started. You got the interest. You want to grow by the end of the night, we'll really help you with that. So way end of February. And what I love about this is normally it would be February 28th, but guys, it's a leap year. It's a leap year. So you get to leap forward with your growing on Leap Day with the Minnesota Cannabis College. That's going to be such a cool event.
Leap ahead
Yeah.
with the Minnesota Cannabis College.
You know what? We need to have sound effects.
You could just make them with your mouth.
Because I was a couple times, sounds like a gong should strike. That was such a resonant point.
That'd be good. That'd be good.
Yeah, so this is again going to have a very special guest. It's Tanner's behind this class, but we're bringing in some additional people that really know a thing or two about a thing or two. Tailored for new and prospective growers. This is your opportunity to take a giant leap forward with your cannabis growing knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what was so cool about that last boot camp is there were people there that said, hey, I'm interested in growing, but had never actually done that then came to our pressing class and said, hey, look what I did. And that's so cool. So come to this boot camp. Maybe you can come to a future rosin lab with flower that you grew. You can tell us about it. We would love that. Absolutely.
Garden to table.
Garden to table. Well, so Steve, one great question that you asked sort of at the beginning of this was, do I know how to grow really big plants? And, I've had experiences where I switched to flowering a little bit too late and maybe I grew too big of plants, but not necessarily big in the way that you want them to be. Not in that density, in that quality, more in that like uncomfortable, too close to the light height. But if you,
the top.
yeah, not what you want to have happening. So I'm not going to be teaching this March class at all. I might make an appearance. I might say hello, but we're bringing in people that are really expert growers. People that grow at home, yes, but also people that grow outside of that home. People that have really a lot more professional experience in growing cannabis, telling you some of those techniques that they've learned professionally with years of experience, years of testing. They're going to impart that knowledge on you all in one evening. It's going to be not really for a beginner grower. If this is your first time growing, come on back. Come on back to our next class in a couple months. Really, this is sort of geared towards more people that have a grow under the belt. Maybe they started August 1st. They're just getting to that harvest now. They're thinking, that was good, but what can I do to make it better? Definitely, this is a good class to come on out to. Going to have some of that expert advice.
Like some of the hardest or the most fun parts to figure out this year is to figure out like where is the audience, the students, the growers, the home growers, where are they at? What do they need? And we quickly realized that there's people out there that need a 201 level class or a 301 level class. And luckily in our network, we have people that can raise the bar and teach at that level. And so this is not just for your beginner anymore. We really want to differentiate ourselves with this March 18th class. Locations still to be announced, but we have some even bigger and better locations throughout this semester that we're going to come back to.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that.
I attempted a very failed closet harvest years ago with a lot of fatalities. And I tried to smoke the shit before I learned how to carry it, and that didn't end well. So I tried that one season, but I haven't grown since it's been legal. And I want to learn, but I feel like now is the time.
Yeah.
And one thing I'd say for people, like no matter where you're at on the skill level, you should show up and consider this as a lifestyle. Like, because gardening is a spiritual experience. Imagine you planting your seed to this cannabis that you raise up and you witness it as a living creature, this plant, this healing plant. And then you go through the process of harvesting it and curing it, and then you can consume your own cannabis. I mean, that's going to be a holy experience.
Yeah.
If you really pour your love into it, and you will. Nobody's going to develop this as a serious hobby without falling in love with it. Yeah. So it's a very healing activity that I really look forward to getting into myself. So I'm going to take advantage of these lessons myself.
Yeah, I was going to say, Marcus, you sound like the perfect candidate for that bundle, because January you'll get started with seeds. You'll learn all about everything you need to know to start growing.
Man, happy New Year.
Yeah. In February, you can celebrate your love with this plant by learning all about the soil and really digging into how to grow that plant a bit better. In March, it's getting a little bit warmer outside. You're looking to thaw your knowledge a bit and learn a bit more, looking to expand. You can grow big plants. And then, you've got that plant huge. It's gotten to the end of flowering. You're ready to go. What do you do next? Well, you come to the drying and curing class that we're going to have in April. Everything that you need to know to go from seed all the way to that finished smokable product, all with the Minnesota Cannabis College.
Man, that's exciting. And it gives you, because we have less sunlight during the wintertime. You go to work, it's dark. You come home, it's dark. So it's not enough sunlight. So, and all of the green's gone, except, the pines, which are dusty this time of year. And so if you can have a little garden in your home and have that light, I mean, imagine how good that it will be for your mood.
I was just about to say.
For your mental health.
It feels like summer in my grow room.
Dude, you get to have wintertime, I just heard this the other day from my master mushroom cultivator friend. We can socialize with the plants. This is
Wise words.
You'd be a healthier person.
Marcus, I better see you on February 29th.
You're going to see me at all these events. Well, the 19th, I got to bring my mom to Mardi Gras, but that's several days before that. So I should be able to make that one.
Just get a ride share. No, I'm just kidding.
It'll cost you $4,500.
But no, I mean, truly, when we were putting together these classes, it was sort of checking every box of wow, if someone's a grower, they're looking to grow a bit more, come to our classes. If someone's looking to become a grower, come to our classes. If you're thinking, is growing right for me? will come to some of our classes. Like we really sort of have a class for every single entry point. There's a class for that.
I think people who consider themselves master cultivators should show up and encourage the novices. Like, you know, if you have that type of skill, come take pride in teaching other people how to develop that, you know. Spread the love so you can encourage people who are new to it and maybe like not very confident.
Yeah.
Like, listen, every harvest can get better.
Well, and here's one thing that I'm thinking of. There were a lot of prospective brands, I would say, that I saw at that concentrate class.
Yeah, I saw 'em.
I'll be looking for in a dispensary in the future. That's for sure.
That part, right. Man.
So
That's how we
You want
evolve.
to get tapped into the cannabis industry. Coming to these events is the best way. Who else is doing events unless, I mean, the Canna Connect events were like this. You know, these type of networking hub events are just, it's priceless.
Yeah, so come on out, mncannabiscollege.org/classes to get information about all of them. But truly, I'd send you to mncannabiscollege.org/bundle. Just get a pass to all of them. You know you're going to come to all of them anyways. Might as well get your ticket now, secure your spot. Every single class that we've had so far has sold out. So really, if you want to get your ticket, we encourage you to get it today.
Energy is
mncannabiscollege.org.
great there, too. I mean, this is a safe space for cannabis enthusiasts. No stigma at all.
Well, that's really all that we have for today. Thank you guys so much for listening if you're listening, but if you're watching, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it.
Buy our merchandise.
Oh, yeah. Buy our merchandise.
Look at that logo. The beauty of this logo rivals any organization of any type in any sector.
Oh, yeah.
Especially cannabis education. I mean,
Look
okay.
at that. Look at the fence.
Look at Minnesota.
Washes well. Thank you. Hang dry, please.
Shout out to Natasha Gibbons who designed our logo. She's somebody who would be at my smoking table.
There you go.
Nachi cakes, okay. Now that's the cream of the crop with the edibles once they get to scale.
Beautiful design.
Yeah.
But some stuff, you know, is so exclusive. You just, you know.
Like the Minnesota
Get it
Cannabis
before it
College
sells out.
concentrate container.
Yeah.
I'm saying, look at that logo.
I know, Steve, I was hoping to get one of those, and they're all gone.
I want a whole Letterman jacket with. Look at those colors. Make you feel good all winter. We're gonna have our best winter yet. 2024. Let's go.
Cannabis College Letterman jackets come spring. I like that.
Yes.
Alumni
That's
only.
one of
Come on,
our
bro.
power
I would
couple
spend like $500 on a good one.
green and blue.
If it's, come on.
You can make it out of hemp as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, yeah.
Wow.
Well, so we'll have a new episode out in 2 weeks per usual. You can catch that in this podcast feed if you're listening to it on audio, but really I encourage you, check us out on YouTube. You can watch us sample these products. You can really see our facial expressions that we talk about how excited we are. You can see our cool merchandise that we have. And you know that you're going to be able to see us every 2 weeks by subscribing to that YouTube page. You can, of course, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that usual jazz. You also can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, LinkedIn, all of those places. Be sure to subscribe. Share a show with your friend.
Yes. Spread the word. Spread the word for people who want credible information, who want good, you know, community building energy, you know, people who support a thriving Minnesota craft cannabis market and personal freedom.
Yeah.
Oh, and please thank Dabbler Depot for
Yes.
elevating our platform. I mean, this is a level up that I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It makes me want to call my anchor and reporter friends, like, look at our studio.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jordan behind the camera. I mean, this is a special man,
Yeah.
and he made this all possible. Like, shout out to the people behind the cameras. Whenever you see good things on the screen, shout out to the people who are filming and editing that. Shout out to the Dabbler Depot. Like, no cap. This place is fantastic. I mean, I walked in here and was in awe. I'm sitting here like, damn, I think I need to be in here for like an hour just to see every
absolutely.
detail. They got a living mouse wall. Like, what?
Yeah.
This is like almost like a conservatory. Like, is this like
A cannabis
part of the Como
conservatory.
Zoo? Like,
Well,
Not the Como Zoo.
I meant what
but
I
they got
said.
that beautiful conservatory. In the wintertime, that is,
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
I'm,
man.
I'm
yeah.
getting over there.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I know all kind of.
we should have an event there in the bonsai room.
Oh. Well, I truly can't think of a better way to end. Shout out to Dabbler Depot. Come on by, check out the products, check out the awesome team that they have here, and swinging back, look through the glass. You might even see us recording like we are right now. So
shout out to Will and Cayle, like the salad.
Absolutely.
Yes, like the lettuce.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Peace.
Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by my co-hosts Marcus Harkis, Shana Payton, and Steve Eigenman. Production assistance from John Barty and Clean Green Media. Video and audio recording at the Dabbler Depot Studios by Jordan Whippet. Thanks to Will and Cayle for coming on and talking about their experiences in the industry. Today's episode was presented by North Star Law Group, your trusted partner in Minnesota's burgeoning legal cannabis industry. The information provided in this podcast does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking advice from their own legal counsel. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly. Beautiful.
Oh
No?
my god.
Sweet.
Dudes.
You like
Oh
it?
my god.
Think we got something?
Oh yes.